got something to say to me, then say it to my face. What it's all about, why you're bailing out. Think you owe me an apology, just say it to my face. You're sorry. You're so sorry. You're so sorry. You're so sorry. Say it to my face. You're sorry. And I quit my job for you, even quit some friends for you, 'cause you couldn't stand it, me all independent, so you had to have me for yourself. That was when I trusted you, when I could add up 2 and 2, when you promised we'd be together, you, me, forever. Now there's nothing left to lose. And though I understand it's hard sometimes to make up your mind in these trying times, yeah, I just can't accept you leaving me when I'm overseas with the heart so heavy. Think that I deserve the truth for once, not a guilty tone, 'cause you're not alone, yeah. You said you wanna come home, but I know you don't. So this time I won't hear it on the phone. If you got something to say to me, then say it to my face. What it's all about, why you're bailing out. Think you owe me an apology, just say it to my face. You're sorry. You're so sorry. You're so sorry. You're so sorry. Say it to my face. You're sorry.
Join our membership program, sign up, find out what's going on, become a patron, and support our work. We're doing these amazing virtual live streams covering events, marches, protests, and actions that mainstream media just isn't covering.
A lot of these very common sense policy interventions aren't given the space they need.
You know, the truth is, before we have the political revolution, we need a media revolution.
We really see this opening in the media space, with television transitioning to the internet in particular. Streaming platforms, Netflix, Hulu, etc., are the next frontier.
And we're not mainstream media. You're not getting a 10-second clip and a very watered down, whitewashed version of what's going on.
Having a media company to support these kind of movement efforts is extremely valuable.
People want to talk to us because they know that we're talking to the people.
We need a dedicated, empowered, honorable base of people who are willing to fight for what they believe in.
This needs to be all of us, not just like watching great content, not just sharing great content, but taking the correlated action and making sure that together these movements are more effective across the board.
We are amplifying activist messages, activist movements, activist campaigns, activist call to action. There's no more important work to be done in this country right now, and ACT TV is doing it, and we need you to be a member. Go to act.tv and sign up to be a member today.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show.
Today is Monday. It is April 18th, 2022. Welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. We are joined on Mondays. I like to call it Action Mondays. We're joined by our team and our friends and our partners over at Activism, Sabrina Williams, who's the Chief Operating Officer, and Jocelyn McCurdy-Keats, who is the Washington, D.C. correspondent for Activism. Good morning to both of you. It is good to be joined by you this morning.
Good morning, Ben. So good to be here.
It is good to be here as well. It is tax day. I want to jump right into it because the sooner we get this conversation going, the more we can talk about what it is to be tax day in America, all around the country. People are preparing to get their last minute filings in, Sabrina, and those that haven't done it yet, they're trying to get in their last minute extension. Talk to us about tax day and Act TV.
Well, listen, I don't know about you all, but I paid my taxes. Ben, I know you paid yours. And Jocelyn, I know you paid yours. But you know who didn't pay taxes today? Wealthy people, most wealthy people, a lot of wealthy people, and many, many corporations. And even if they paid a little bit, they did not pay their fair share. And the point of a civilized society, right, is that we all come together, we pay our fair share, and we have these amazing common goods and services like education and research, airports, roads, you name it, parks, and all of these amazing things that allow our society to run, to make sure everyone has what they need to function and do well in society. We pay our fair share. It's time for corporations to pay their fair share. And ActTV has been on the front lines virtually every tax day, partnering with movement organizations to bring you the message that, hey, wealthy people, pay your fair share. Folks like Donald Trump several years ago, we had a big action demanding that he release his taxes before the election so that we could see whether he was, he want to lead this great country, but have you contributed financially to this great country? If you stay tuned on ActTV, on Facebook, on Twitter, later today at 12 p.m. Eastern, you will see our 2022 Tax Day Action. We have partnered with a number of movement coalition partners to bring you the latest, just infuriation by the average American on tax day. And that is, we are demanding that corporations pay their fair share. So you can see that action, that live stream right here in a few hours.
Absolutely. So that's later today at 12 noon Eastern. I'm always about this, Jocelyn. You and I, we talked about how we both, not just scream at the rich or yell things like eat the rich, but we're really serious about everyone carrying their fair share and doing their fair part. But why is it that we have so many people? It's like the richer you get, the more they define patriotism by how much you can keep from this government. And we seem to reward that all the way to the very top, to the richest people in the world.
I love that you say that because I'm kind of smiling watching this tax day coverage and getting nostalgia for all the fine organizers who have been able to bring to light the fact that Donald Trump is the rule. He's not the exception. I love what you just said, Ben. I mean, we've reached a situation where it's considered entrepreneurial to, use loopholes in the tax code to hoard millions and even billions in offshore accounts. That has become the norm in this country, which is ironic because the income tax, and I just learned this recently, was actually a Gilded Age response to monopoly power of the time. They introduced the income tax as a way to be like, okay, these incredibly wealthy people are taking advantage of the public sector. We need to introduce an income tax. And now that very income tax has resulted in working class and middle class families paying between 20 and 30% of their income, while people make billions of dollars in a day. Jeff Bezos recently made $19 billion in a day in February alone. That's ridiculous. And that's a policy failure. It's not, I mean, look, I'm not a big fan of Jeff Bezos, but it's not about him. It's about the fact that people like him on K Street in Washington have written a tax code which allow them to do that, while people like us pay a third of our income for endless war.
Right. Right. Sabrina, Act TV has been covering this and facilitating this for years. What are some of the key action points that we want from the people? Like, what can we do? Because at the end of the day, every single month, I write a check to the IRS, and I know everyone looks at their paycheck every single month, like taxes are coming out. Some of us have to pay every single time we look up, yet there's a faction of this country that doesn't contribute to anything. They don't contribute to our roads. And you mentioned parks. I'm looking around at our country, and there's, I've had a chance to do a lot of traveling lately, and it's like our infrastructure dilapidated. Our parks are in ruins, but we have people flying off into space with our tax dollars.
Yeah, I think one of the best things you can do, I think it's going to be a multifaceted solution to get rich people and corporations to pay their taxes. But I think the most important thing you can do is vote. Vote for the representatives that are going to hold wealthy people and corporations responsible for paying taxes. That will eliminate the loopholes that allow them to hoard their money, to stash their money offshore, to not pay taxes on it, to, let's elect politicians who are not bought by, wealthy people, that are not tools of, the elite class. So I think that's probably, to me, that is the most important first step. And again, at the end of the day, we have to hold these elected officials accountable. And money speaks volumes. If you're paying money, if you're spending a ton of money at Amazon, and I know sometimes we don't have other options, I get it. But if we're spending money with these organizations, with these companies, giving these money giving money to wealthy people who are essentially hurting us, we are facilitating their oppression of us. So let's make sure every time we're spending a dollar that we're spending it to help ourselves, not to oppress ourselves.
Wow. Sabrina, could you say that again? We are facilitating. Say it one more time for me.
Let's make sure when we spend a dollar, we are spending it to help ourselves, not to oppress ourselves. Instead of maybe going to Walmart, to spending money with Amazon. And we're going to get to that in a minute about the Amazon workers unionizing. Let's not spend money at organizations like even Starbucks that has, where they're trying to crush unions, not pay taxes, maintain all of their elite, corporate privilege. And we essentially spend, as Jocelyn just mentioned, huge percentages of our income to maintain all of the common goods in society, while they continue to hoard the opportunities by the politicians and really, essentially make the economy only work for them. Instead of spending money at places like that, go spend your money at the local person who is just like you and me, who is paying their taxes and paying for all of the common goods in your community that go to help everyone.
When we talk about this particular topic, like we seriously can take an entire day to break down all the different ways, the different tax shelters, all the different resources, Jocelyn, that are at the disposal of the wealthy and the rich, and the tax code specifically designed to be cumbersome. We could even talk about TurboTax, like that'll be on my, conversation. But, the difficulty of filing and the simplicity of how this government could simply file the taxes for us. It's just one big game, it seems, Jocelyn, for them to get us chasing our tails. But then in the meantime, at the top, they're riding off into the sunset on their yachts.
I love that you say that, Ben, because, I may have mentioned this. The average American spends 30 hours compiling their tax return. 30 hours. That means a lot of us spend more than that, right? And that's done intentionally. It's like you're saying, people might not think about this, but these tax services actually do have a very powerful lobby in Washington because they make so much money off of confusing the American tax base. In a lot of other countries, it does not work like that. Quick plug for my evening show tonight. We're going to be talking to a journalist, T.R. Reed, who, he's a journalist for the Washington Post, and he wandered around the world figuring out just that. Why is the American tax code so confusing? It's because they want to waste your time. They want to waste your intellectual energy. They want to make you feel so overwhelmed that you can't advocate for yourself. And you can't ask yourself, wait a minute, why does that dude get a $7,500 write-off for a sports car, real figure? Meanwhile, I don't get a write-off for things like rent or things I need for my kids. If I'm a teacher, things I need for my students. Yet people like Jeff Bezos can claim pretty much everything they make as tax exempt because they are job creators, and they make it confusing so we don't have to figure that out and get angry. It's done completely intentionally.
This is a lot going on today. So we have at noon, we have tax day action, Sabrina, and then later on tonight, Jocelyn, you have that episode. And that time, what time is that at?
Oh, it's 5:30 p.m.
5:30 p.m. Eastern. A lot going on tax day. Let's shift and we can come back. I want to talk about Solidarity Live. That's what's coming up next with ActTV. Talk to us, Sabrina. What do you have going on there?
You know, I'm going to punt to Jocelyn on this, but what I do know is last week we had a really amazing Solidarity Live show. Jocelyn and Alex Lawson, some of our partners over at Social Security Works, interviewed, and I apologize if I get his name wrong, Shekhar Narasimhan, who is the co-founder of the Asian American Pacific Islander Victory Fund. And I know Jocelyn had a great conversation with him about the political experience of our AAPI brothers and sisters in this country, and how just really consolidating power in a lot of these, demographic groups.
Thank you, Alex.
So
Thank you,
important
Jocelyn.
and so powerful. Jocelyn, I'd love to understand a little bit more about what you all talked about.
So it was an incredibly inspiring conversation. So Shaker is a businessman, and him and some friends and colleagues were like, wait a minute, we're seeing these numbers. We're seeing AAPI people aren't really voting in a way that reflects who they are as Americans, who they are as citizens. And they were like, you know what? It's because people aren't talking to them. It's because the political elite, the consultant class, the major party are not looking at Asian American Pacific Islanders as the unique citizens they are, which, by the way, draw on several nations and cultures and several through lines of the American experience, and yet are combined into this monolithic two-dimensional thing. And that's becoming more and more important as we have a president that said just completely distasteful racial things like the China virus, blamed the problems we were just talking about in the American tax code on China. Yeah, I'm sorry. China is not the person handing Jeff Bezos billions of dollars and tax hold. That's America. That's an American problem, right? And yes, of course, part of being large, powerful countries, we have to take seriously our foreign competitors, both in terms of our military interests, our economic interests, great. But to blame it on another nation, another economy, is a way of distracting us from the fact that the threats are domestic. The threats are here at home. And Shekhar just like, he's doing it. Like, he's like, okay, we're going to organize our people. And one thing he said a lot is he was like, look, to be a person of color in America, you don't need to be Asian American. Like, they work with Black groups, they work with Latinx groups, because the reality is we live in a country where the political baseline is if you're white, male, and privileged. And if you don't fit in that very narrow subset, you're considered other, you're considered a minority or marginalized. And that, we know that's nonsense, right? You look at numbers alone, that's not even half of the country, right? Like, half of us are women at least. And we need to be talking to each other and organizing each other and really leaning into those of us who maybe aren't partisan in nature, because we're the ones with the most common sense solutions. We're like, wait a minute, this isn't adding up to me. Am I missing something? And those are the people who frequently don't want to be involved, and those are the people that need to be involved. And it's inspiring to hear that happening.
I just want to say one thing that, and just piggyback off something Jocelyn said, and that is Shekhar and a lot of other organizations in this country are really trying to coalesce and empower voters to make change for the good of all of society. Number one, you are not going to see those conversations on the nightly news, on any mainstream corporate sponsored media platform. But where you will see it? You'll see it on the Benjamin Dixon Show. You'll see it on ActTV. You'll see it on The Pursuit of Happiness with Jocelyn McCurdy-Keats. You'll see it on Solidarity Live. You will see it on all of our progressive media shows, because that's what we do. Our job, our goal, our mission is to promote progressive values, to empower American citizens. That's exactly what let's face it, conservatives and the power elite are trying to crush in many, many states across this country right now. The power to vote, the right to vote is being crushed. It's being minimized. It is being literally, they have enacted and they're trying to enact laws that discourage people from voting. Physically and psychologically. If you feel like, oh my God, I need all this stuff, I'm not even sure how to vote, they're trying to confuse the American voter, right? So I love what Shankar talked about. It's what a lot of voting rights and get out to vote organizations are talking about. We need voters to feel empowered so that they can make change in this country. But to hear those conversations, you have to have media outlets like ActTV and the Benjamin Dixon Show.
And this is a good place as any, Sabrina, to point everyone to how they can support ActTV, because this is quite honestly, anyone who knows me long enough to know that I don't give this kind of space to just anybody. And I definitely don't do it just for money, right? I partner with people I believe in, and I believe in ActTV. Tell them why they should go join. And better yet, I think they're seeing why they should go join. Tell them where they can go join.
Yeah, you can go to act.tv/join, sign up to be a member. If you have a few extra dollars, $5, $10, $20, $50, $100, become a patron, make a gift. Your money, 100% of it goes to supporting the work that me, that Jocelyn, that the rest of our team does to bring you progressive media, to bring you those conversations that you are not going to see on the nightly news. You are not going to hear, the elites talk about, except for our friends over at Patriotic Millionaires, like they did a few weeks ago. Rich people talking about how rich people need to change, so that our economy doesn't collapse and our society doesn't collapse. But if you go to act.tv/join, you can sign up to be a member. You will get regular newsletters and emails from, our very own Jocelyn McCurdy-Keats, who's on this show right now. She sends weekly updates about all of the amazing work we're doing with all of our amazing partners, because at the end of the day, we can't do it alone, but we will bring you the information. We will bring you, the links, the messages about where you need to sign up, what you need to actually do to change this country. I don't care whether it comes to economics, racial justice, the climate, voting, reproductive justice, reproductive rights. We cover all of it because it's all important and it's all tied together. So go to act.tv/join, become a member today. It's free to become a member and get Jocelyn's amazing newsletters. If you don't have time to watch, you can just read her newsletters. They're amazing. They're like great summaries.
Thank you, Sabrina.
Jocelyn, tell them more about the newsletter and also why they should join.
Well, it's so funny because as you're talking, I'm thinking about how part of an obstacle to my maturity as an activist is not wanting to ask for money, right? And I think that's something that we on the left really struggle with sometimes, because look, if you're doing this, unless you're very foolish, you're not doing this for financial reasons, right? But then, I got more educated about how much money our opponents really have, right? How much money Fox News has, how much money this consultant class is making. And it's meanwhile, people like you, Ben, are just out here look, I just need to be able to pay people and pay my bills and cover these stories that realistically are not going to get attention. I feel like ever since I started getting radicalized, I will read some story or talk to someone or hear on some issue. And I'm like, wait a minute, why is no one talking about this? They're not talking about it because it's not profitable. It's not profitable to talk about how bad it is for Black women, who are the most educated group in this country, and still make 62 cents on the white man's dollar. It's not profitable to talk about the fact that healthcare in this country is so unconscionable that most bankruptcy is coming from cancer diagnosis. These stories are not getting covered because they cost a lot of white men a lot of money. And so meanwhile, we're everyone in this space, we just want to keep talking about this stuff. And we want to arm people with the information so they can go out there knowing what their rights are, knowing what they deserve, and knowing that they're being I was about to use some unpleasant language, taken advantage of by this current system. I caught it though. I want to.
No, I'm smiling ear to ear because you say that white man with some emphasis, I mean, And it's all going down at Act TV. Listen, folks, like if you're a supporter of mine, you should be a supporter of Act TV, because where else can I go? And not only do I get to talk about rich white men, but Jocelyn McCurdy Keats gets on here and says it with more emphasis than I do. Act.tv/join. It's free to join. Get on the mailing list today if you haven't done so already. I want to shift gears really quickly to one of the highlights of 2022. Honestly, for me, it's one of the highlights of the pandemic. I've been able to follow this story since Christian Smalls stood out there on behalf of the Amazon workers in the Staten Island warehouse. And Christian Smalls subsequently lost his job. He started the unionizing efforts, and here we are. Act TV has been bringing some amazing coverage and has been helping us bring coverage. Sabrina, talk to us about the Amazon union unionizing efforts and Act TV's coverage.
Right. Absolutely, Ben. Let me just take half a step back. I am no history expert, but I did go to law school. And while I was in law school, I was privileged enough to take classes like labor law and employment law and understand the history of the labor movement in this country. If you ever wake up and you look in the mirror and you say, you know what, unions have outlived their useful purpose now. So what are unions for? I want you to go back and read the history of the formation of unions starting in the early 1800s. People died for a 5-day work week. People died so that you could work 8 hours a day. People died so that you wouldn't have to breathe toxic fumes while you're at your jobs, so that your children who are 5 and 8 and 12 years old wouldn't have to work. Unions have changed the workplace. They have changed the power between workers and companies and the business owners for the better for you, and you are living the benefit. So this guy, Chris Smalls, starting a little over a year ago, complained, but 2 years ago or so, at the start of the pandemic, kept bringing up issues about, the unsafe conditions they were in the Staten Island, New York warehouse. They didn't have PPE, yet they knew there was PPE because they were shipping it out all across the country, obviously to much needed places. But they were saying, listen, protect us as workers. And Amazon wouldn't do that. He got fired for raising his voice. He didn't go home and cry, or maybe he did for a few minutes, but you know what he did? He took action. He organized his fellow workers. They, fought, and finally they got a union. But you know what Act TV did? Act TV covered his not too big, action last year, August 11, 2021, when mainstream media would not cover it, when mainstream media was working with Amazon and the elite and corporate class to crush unions, as they still are. But Act TV was there, and that's a risk for us. We can't get corporate, sponsorships. We don't want them, but corporate companies won't advertise with us. They don't want to do work with us because we call them out at every single chance we can get. They try to crush this union. We covered it. And finally, a week or two ago, that Amazon, location in Staten Island, New York, was able to unionize. That is a huge win for unions, for Amazon workers, and for every single freaking worker in this country.
Right.
Know it, believe it, and appreciate it. This one man and his friends did some great work. Never underestimate the determination of a small group of people. He did it.
Absolutely. Jocelyn, I know you've been covering this. This is, like I said, this has been one of the highlights. And I'm going to be honest with you. This is one of the reasons I support Act TV so much. Right. I love being around people and organizations that don't mind getting their hands dirty, knuckling up, and getting down in the trenches. If there's 5 people at an event, Act TV was there and covered it. And it starts to steamroll. It starts to steam pile. Like, you guys are really about that action. Talk to us about your experience covering this with Act TV.
Well, I love that you say that, Ben. Thank you, because that's exactly what it is, right? So early in my career doing this, someone once commented on one of my things like, so what, y'all are talking to like 3 people outside some government building? Okay, look at this event. Is this some rally with hundreds of people? No. But I think what we need to talk about is how brave and heroic Chris Smalls really was. They leaked a memo in the internal upper management of that Amazon where they insulted his intelligence. They minimized him in ways which were they're like racial dog whistling type of nonsense type stuff. And he was like, you know what, I'm going to be even bolder. I'm going to go even harder. Him and his friends organized mutual aid for their Amazon colleagues who couldn't afford to eat while they're working these long, physically strenuous days. They were advocating for COVID protection. They just didn't give up until finally these little events, people started to be like, wait a minute, we're all getting mistreated. This guy's telling the truth. And then they won. And now you have the New York Times wanting to talk to them on the daily, which, like, no shade at the New York Times. It was a good episode. You should listen to it. But, like, you know, we don't start with the mainstream media listening to the people they need to listen to, right?
Yeah.
That happens when we don't give up, when we listen to the heroes we have already, because that's a thing, right? Like, we don't need people with like PhDs or like some shiny career. We need the workers who already know how to organize for their communities, who already know what's going on. Like, we just need to listen to them and give them the platform they deserve.
You know what? I do know how to raise money. Why? We need people to go and join right now. I am so excited about this partnership with ActTV, because you're right, Jocelyn. Like, it is the fact that it was a small independent media outlets that covered this, that gave it and helped sustain it. Like, we shared the links. I'm so glad to see Christian Smalls with the interviews on CNN and on MSNBC and with the New York Times and all those things. But I'm really glad, Sabrina, to know that, you know, he started off and they started off with streaming with ActTV and doing several interviews with us. Like, I'm ecstatic about the fact that it was independent media that helped give the coverage that nobody else would. And for that reason, I think there should be several millionaires lining up right now. Talk to us.
Absolutely. It's easy to get discouraged in this fight. You're fighting for, it's like we're fighting a battle on every single front, whether it's affordable childcare, good schools, good roads, for us to have livable wages, for us to unionize, for safe conditions. I mean, just on and on and on. But the point is, let's take our wins and celebrate them and cherish them where we can, and it doesn't take a lot. I just want to keep making that point. Look at, I don't see 100 people behind him. I see a few dedicated people who are committed to a fight to make sure workers had safe conditions, livable wages. All he wanted to do was start a union. And I just want, if you ever think like, well, what is he fighting for? I mean, come on, he could just go get a new job, make $2 more at the place down the street. You know what? If that was so easy, Amazon and other corporations wouldn't be so threatened. If you want to know where you should be fighting, just figure out, where are they trying to crush us at every turn, right? They're trying to crush independent media. They're trying to crush unions. They're trying to crush our right to vote, crush livable wages so that they control us, so that we can't collectively come together with our money and make sure that our politicians are doing what we, the people, the 99% want them to do. And so when you donate, when you become a member and you donate to ActTV, your money ain't going to buy yachts and private jets and, send my kids to Harvard. That's not where it's going. It's going to send, Washington correspondents like Jocelyn down to, the Capitol to celebrate the nomination of the first Black, Supreme Court justice. It's going to send our camera people in New York, or sometimes they're coming from DC, to actions like Chris Smalls had in Staten Island last year to cover this when mainstream media won't. It's to send our camera folks to Chicago to support, SEIU and Union Rally, to support airport workers a few weeks ago, that to support shows like the Benjamin Dixon Show, that, the Pursuit of Happiness with Jocelyn McCurdy Keats. Your money goes to support you. It's going to support causes that you support, things that will make your life better. Livable wages, good schools, economic security. It's stuff we have to fight for, but at the end of the day, we do need money to do it. Sign up to be an ActTV member today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, there's a lot more for us to talk about on this Action Monday. We'll be coming back right after this break to follow up on a couple of more stories, as well as actions. And that's the part. It is the action. I could tell you the as much as I was a hermit during the pandemic, and quite honestly still am, getting out into the streets and actually participating in some of these actions and organizing and seeing real people do real things, that's what this is all about. So go to act.tv/join and become a member today. We're going to go to a quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined again by Jocelyn McCurdy-Keats and Sabrina Williams of Act TV for this Action Monday. More on the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show right after this.
Join our membership program, sign up, find out what's going on, become a patron, and support our work. We're doing these amazing virtual live streams covering events, marches, protests, and actions that mainstream media just isn't covering.
A lot of these very common sense policy interventions aren't given the space they need.
You know, the truth is, before we have the political revolution, we need a media revolution.
We really see this opening in the media space with television transitioning to the internet in particular. Streaming platforms, Netflix, Hulu, etc., are the next frontier.
And we're not mainstream media. You're not getting a 10-second clip and a very watered down, whitewashed version of what's going on.
Having a media company to support these kind of movement efforts is extremely valuable.
People want to talk to us because they know that we're talking to the people.
We need a dedicated, empowered, honorable base of people who are willing to fight for what they believe in.
This needs to be all of us, not just like watching great content, not just sharing great content, but taking the correlated action and making sure that together these movements are more effective across the board.
We are amplifying activist messages, activist movements, activist campaigns, activist call to action. There's no more important work to be done in this country right now, and Act TV is doing it, and we need you to be a member. Go to act.tv and sign up to be a member today.
Back to the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. It is Monday, April 18th, 2022. It is an Action Monday, and we are joined, as always, by our partners at Act TV, Sabrina Williams, the Chief Operating Officer, and Jocelyn McCurdy-Keats, the DC correspondent. Good morning again to you both.
Good morning.
I want to shift gears and talk about the petition drives. I have had the opportunity, Jocelyn, to work with you on some of the email components of the petition drives, and I'm loving the action part of it, like literally getting in the faces of, we'll get there eventually. But talk to us about the various petition drives and how that is actually driving action.
Well, I love every minute of this segment. This is my favorite part because I think a lot of, I touched on this earlier, there's a lot of cynicism around things like petition, talking to members. And I obviously hear that. I get it. Like, how could you not be cynical? Look around you. But the reality is sometimes we win. Ben, like you and I worked together on writing about the MORE Act, the bill introduced in the House to legalize cannabis use across America, which would do incredible amounts to protect all kinds of communities from the way cannabis has been weaponized to hurt people in this country. Like, yes, communities of color, but also just like, sick people that need marijuana for pain relief. Like, there's so many people who are impacted that, and we won. The House did, in fact, vote on the MORE Act. And so now we're taking it to the Senate. And it's just like a beautiful example of the fact that, yes, a lot of the times we lose because we are up against billions of dollars and incredibly cruel, powerful people. But sometimes we win because at the end of the day, there are millions of us and a few of them. And that's why it's, again, so powerful to be able to have this space of media that is not pretending to be some think tank where we discuss the issues, but is an active living space where we talk to the people that are doing this work and then we help them do it.
Yeah, no, that's the part, right? We get the opportunity to actually speak to individuals, Sabrina, that are doing this work and the passion that drives it. This is a labor of love. Each and every part that we're talking about that ActTV is making possible, each of them requires logistics. Each of these things requires technology, requires databases, it requires communication skills, it requires the entire gambit. Talk to us about ActTV's infrastructure and how they're making these petition drives, taking them from conception to reality and to victory.
Yeah. And before I talk about, the logistics of how we put our petitions together, I just want to say one thing. Again, I want to touch on all the amazing stuff that Jocelyn says. She's so intelligent. Let's not get cynical. Let's not get frustrated. Yeah. That is what the powers that be want us to feel. It's almost like, I don't know if you all know anything about the psychology of like competition sports, right? Before you can go out there and you can beat your opponent, but if you psychologically, before the game even starts, if you make them think they're going to lose, they're lesser than, they don't have the skills, the tools, the resources to win, you've won before the game has even started. And that's what the power elite want us to feel, that, oh, we don't have the money, we don't have the politics, but you know what we have? We have each other. And when we work together, we do have the money, we do have the resources. I've seen research, and don't quote me on this, but you can Google it. For every one signature on a petition, most politicians or companies feel that's really a reflection of anywhere from like 10,000 to 100,000 other individuals who feel the exact same way, but they were just too busy, they couldn't sign, or they didn't know about the petition, and that's okay. But your voice is really a representation of thousands and thousands of other people. So when you sign these petitions, it really does have impact. And Jocelyn, I'd love for you to just say, so very quickly about our process, Jocelyn, with the help of other people on our team, writes these amazing petitions to, the powers that be, to Congress, elected officials, to organization heads, Fox News, etc. We ask folks to sign them. Our intent is always to deliver them and to make sure that, the powers that be know what the American people want. But Jocelyn, I'd love to hear the win. What happened with the MORE Act?
Yeah. So we actually had, it worked. It like that never happens. Sometimes it just feels like you're like, oh, like researching, like finding all this research about how this issue impacts everyone. And then you write it. And sometimes it can feel, of course, I get why people feel like they sign their name and nothing happens. I didn't know that, Sabrina. That's an amazing statistic about like one signature makes perfect sense to me, right? Because people are busy. The American public is working harder than ever. There are studies that working moms now do as much work in the house as stay-home moms a couple generations ago. So people are busy. I get it. But that's why I love petitions, right? Because you add your name and then we will take the onus of making sure it gets in front of the right people. Because I get why people are cynical about digital activism and like, oh, like you're just clicking stuff, you're just sharing stuff. That's where people are now, though. People are on the internet, including our leaders, including our members of Congress, definitely your colleagues. And so, it's an amazing feeling to be like, okay, we worked with, Justin Strickle, who's like, and all these other activists that are doing this work. And now we're going to the Senate because the activists who did the daily thankless work of educating people and organizing their people are winning. And now we're seeing on cannabis justice advances we never thought were going to happen within our lifetime. Like, I remember not that long ago when it was just understood that any whiff of marijuana use or whatever and your life was ruined, especially if you were a person of color. And now it's becoming normalized. It's becoming legal. And we have this like amazing lawyers like yourself, Sabrina, on the case of like getting people who shouldn't be behind bars out for nonviolent offenses. That is work that y'all did, that normal people did, that consultants did not do, and it's just so inspiring to be a part of it, because when you win, you realize, oh, we can win on other things too. It's not just this one issue.
Speaking of the other wins, and perhaps people should think about it. Well, I'll take a step back to Sabrina here, because I do understand people being fatigued over petitions. And I have personally seen petitions be used as just a marketing ploy. But I've not seen that at all with ActTV. I've seen the petitions be taken into action to move policy. And I think people need to make a really clear distinction. If the petitions that are coming your way aren't moving policy, then they're not quality petitions like we have over here at ActTV. Now, speaking of the other issues, Jocelyn, tell us about the Stop War Profiteering, because the way I see it is every time I sign my name to a petition, that gives me an opportunity to not only understand the issue, but to say that I'm personally doing something about it, even if all I personally have the time to do is to sign on to say to stop war profiteering.
Yeah, so this is a huge one. And, by the way, Ben, I love that you say that. Yes, that's true. People do use petitions to get names and make money. And so I just want anyone watching to know that like we have a lot of anxiety of making sure like if you give us your name that we're doing something with this. Like I live in DC. Are we taking this to the Hill? Because if we're not, we don't want to waste y'all's time. And one of those very important issues, 108 members of Congress are invested in defense contractors. That's crazy. That's crazy. I mean, think about that. They are making money off of our defense budget, which, by the way, is the biggest in the world. Killing people abroad, especially people in non-white countries, is a business. And that should disgust all of us. I mean, that literally fits the definition of genocide. And it's wild that we will go into public schools and have like fourth graders educated about the Holocaust. Meanwhile, our taxpayer dollars are being used to kill civilians overseas for no reason, for literally no reason. People who have not taken aggressive stances against this country. And we're saying, you know what, maybe if you're going to elect or represent the American public, you shouldn't be making money off of making them complicit in murder. That's a pretty bare minimum entry bar.
Yeah.
Another thing we should be outraged about on tax day, how our freaking tax dollars are used. I mean, not only are we paying taxes, but a large percentage of our tax dollars go to support things that, like Jocelyn just said, are reprehensible. The killing of, the business of killing brown people in brown countries, make for no reason, for oil, for market domination, for whatever crazy, dumb reason, the powers that be in this country and around the world have, it makes no sense. These lives are valuable and there's no reason our tax dollars should be supporting it.
It is a bit triggering when I consider the size of a check that I send to the IRS every month, to know that those dollars are now not only going directly to pay for these politicians' salaries, right? Because we pay their salaries, but for 108 of them, they're getting this money indirectly through defense profiteering because they're investing in these defense contractors. I find that really reprehensible. You're right, Sabrina. On a day like today, when everyone is going to be writing checks to the government, they're going to get a bonus. These 108 politicians are going to get a bonus out of our tax dollars, and it's in the name of war. It can't possibly be more disgusting. What are we going to do with these names, Jocelyn? I'm ready to get my camera and pull up with you because we need to talk to some of these politicians.
I would love that. And that is what we want to do, right? And so, this is something that like we do multiple times a week. Okay, so like we're launching these petitions. Let's have a conversation about turning this into action. Does this mean that, me and other members of our DC team are going to go to Capitol Hill? Does this mean we're going to, like go to constituents and get more because organizing still works. In fact, if you are a student of history right now and a student of current events, it works more than ever. Another petition we're working on, cancel student debt, yet another issue that we never thought would be getting so close to victory because of people like you who shared your stories, who organized, who took it seriously. And, again, this didn't happen overnight. People love magical thinking. They love that we woke up one day and all of a sudden people are talking about Medicare for all. It's like, no, that happened because a lot of activists who are mostly normal, ordinary people did work like this. And now it's something that's seriously on the table.
Let's shift gears. Another petition is the cancel student debt petition. I think anyone who, I think everyone should be on board with this one, but specifically because of how student debt has become another tool of fleecing the American citizen. Let's talk about that particular petition.
Yeah. So Sabrina, actually, the stuff you were telling me the last time we hung out about the wage gap and student debt blew my mind. Do you remember that conversation? She was, so Sabrina, we were talking about how like a lot of times we think of secondary degrees in this country as, oh, well, why did you get that master's degree if you couldn't afford it? Here's the deal. They've created a situation where professional wages, and I'm not talking like a ton of money, just basic living wages are behind the wall of a higher degree, which they make prohibitively expensive. And that hurts people who can't afford it. That hurts people whose parents can't afford it. It hurts people who are alienated from their parents. Like, let's talk about that, right? The aid you qualify is based on your parents' income. Well, like, what if you don't get along with your parents like that? So what are you supposed to do, And it has resulted in a situation where lots of people against canceling student debt are saying foolish things like, well, those are all doctors and lawyers who can afford it. Why am I subsidizing? But the numbers don't lie. The numbers don't lie. The average person who is deeply in debt is not a high earning private practice physician. It's Black women who are also more likely to be supporting their families. It's people who maybe didn't even finish college, but still have to pay back that tens of thousands of debt and aren't even making a living wage. And we need to, have a serious conversation about why people need these expensive degrees to make a living wage to begin with. But first, we need to cancel it. Just cancel it. And President Biden has the power to do that now, which he's just kind of like not wanting to talk about it. It's much easier to punt to Congress and be like, oh, they just don't want to do anything. I'm so sorry. But we know that's ridiculous. He can sign executive disorder. That's an amazing Freudian slip.
Wow. What a turn of phrase. We'll have to credit you when I use it again. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was about to say. But he can do it because, you keep moving that goalpost back of people not needing to repay their loans. It's like, and I don't even like their loans because that puts the onus on students who were just doing everything right. For decades, we've been telling people, especially people in marginalized communities, like, oh, well, you've got to educate yourself. That's on you. And then people do that. They do that incredibly hard work of getting sophisticated degrees. And then what are they rewarded with? Debt they will never pay off.
Absolutely. Sabrina, tell us about this event, because I know you guys covered this calling for and actually President Biden extending the repayments during COVID-19. Talk to us about this event.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm definitely with Jocelyn that Biden and our elected officials, Congress can do more to cancel student debt. I mean, we're asking them for one thing, cancel student debt. I mean, that's a pretty simple call to action for them. We partnered with Voto Latino a few weeks ago, and I know we have some B-roll of that going. And Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer was on, and they were talking about canceling student debt, specifically canceling student debt and the benefits it would mean for the Latino community in our country. But, their head, Maria Teresa Kumar, definitely talked about the impact to all communities of color and just everyone of canceling student debt. We had a petition, people signed, and we did get a little win. I like to take our wins where we can. Let's have a little bit of happiness before we get back in the fight. Biden did extend the debt, waiver or cancellation, not cancellation, but, we don't have to pay our student loan debt until I believe it's August. It will, that executive order or whatever it was, does expire in August. We're asking him to make it permanent. Let's cancel student debt permanently. But I do want to take that win right there. I do think, again, ActTV covered an issue you're rarely hearing about on the nightly news. And if you are hearing about it, you're hearing a 10-minute soundbite. You are not hearing the full in-depth conversation like we had with Voto Latino and other partners several weeks ago. It's not just ActTV. So again, we can't do it alone. We partner with tons of movement organizations, tons of activists, tons of people, just like the folks watching and listening right now, because it takes all of us. We demanded a cancellation of student debt, and we got a little win out of it. We got, an extension of, no debt payments until August. I will take that little win. Let's celebrate, but then let's get right back to work demanding that Biden and Congress cancel student debt forever. And as Jocelyn said, use your executive disorder, your order, whatever you do, but let's cancel student debt so that we can give some economic relief to everyone in this country, but particularly the brown and Black people who suffer under crushing student loan debt the most. As Jocelyn said, Black women are the most educated demographic in this country, yet we make 60-something cents to a white man's dollar. Student loan impacts us disproportionately, and President Biden has the authority and the power to change that. Sign that petition and let him and elected officials know how you feel about it. You can go to act.tv/action, sign all of our petitions. They do make a difference. They do.
Absolutely. They make a difference. And, I think people should also consider how much it makes a difference for them as individuals to have this information synthesized into one place where they could go and get detailed information about not only the issue, but about what's happening in Congress. I'm at the juncture where, just a brief moment for commentary, considering how important education is to any government, any institution, any civilization, right? It is a direct investment into the United States of America for these students to have gotten this education. And so it is also a direct investment doubly over for Joe Biden to cancel this student debt, because we're talking about $4 trillion in debt that would be now released into the economy because people will be able to buy homes. People will be able to afford their car payments. People will be able to live. But it just seems to me like they have this perfect catch-22 where they can keep education from us. And if we happen to get it, it costs us a lifetime of debt. And then we're too busy, Jocelyn, to even understand some of these issues. But then comes ActTV, and ActTV says, here, we're going to outline every single one of these issues, and all you have to do is read it and sign it, and you could be not only informed, but you could be active. I absolutely love what's going on over there at ActTV. I want both of you, if you would, I want to make sure we cover everything, because I know there's some more actions. We have CBS petition, CBS trying to offer jobs to former Trump staffers, and they can find all of these at ActTV/action. Is that correct, Jocelyn?
Yes, absolutely.
Actions. Okay, so let's do this. Sabrina, as we get ready to go this morning, I think we have made the most convincing case of why, at a minimum, you should become a member. It's free to join. Give us the closing pitch as to why everyone should stop what they're doing. And I don't want to sound dramatic, but as I listen to this, I'm going to be honest with you. As I listen to this episode this morning in particular, my energy is renewed to get to work and to do more than watch and act. Sabrina, get the last word.
Listen, when we come together, I know I sound like Bernie Sanders, but when we come together, me, you, Jocelyn, all of the people watching, we can make change. We've just showed you. Together, we can make change, but we have to support independent progressive media because no one else is going to be at these teeny tiny actions, writing these petitions like Jocelyn does about canceling student debt and not giving, cushy jobs to, Trump's chief of staff and other people in his administration. Stop the war profiteering. That's not what you're going to hear on the nightly news. So if you don't have time to research all these issues, read our petitions, trust us, follow us. We have not let you down. We have helped support with our partners. We have helped support and gain wins. Join ActTV, join our membership program. It costs you nothing. You will get our updates. You will be put on our email list. We will not spam you, I promise you. And if you have a little bit of extra money, it doesn't take much to support us. Become a patron. Give a recurring gift of $10 or $20 or $100 a month if you can. Your money goes 100% to supporting the work that ActTV does, the work that makes your life better, the work that makes America a better place for everyone. Join today, act.tv/join.
Jocelyn McCurdy Keats, Sabrina Williams, and the entire ActTV team, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Ben.
We have the best of the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show coming up next. Stay tuned around. The entire team will be back tomorrow. The Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. We'll see you next time.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show.
Good morning.
Good morning. What's up, Anoa? Good morning. Listen, we are taking over.
Gosh.
We are taking over.
It's so good.
I know, it's so good.
I mean, we already run Ben stuff, but like this is official.
Yes. And you are like one of the first people who told me, girl, move Ben to the side. What is it that you have? Listen, what is it that you want? I remember when Ben had us in some kind of boot camp and you were our mentor, and it was funny because
I know we can't go into all of the things about that experience. But that was such an amazing opportunity with y'all.
It was.
To really, because I had already met you before when y'all were doing the other show at the studio.
Yeah, Like It or Not one.
Yeah, like it or not, the first edition.
Yeah.
And that was really cool to come and just, interact. But like we didn't really, get to really like engage or anything, right? Like I just popped in as a guest and, went on my way. But when, the building and bringing that team together and getting there to sit there and like work with you and watch y'all in your process, Ben was all like, oh, I got to turn them into you and know what I got to get them to do this and da-da-da-da-da. You know how Ben gets. Like, we love you, Ben, but Ben
love you, Mina.
Very like, it's that other Gemini energy. I'm a Gemini too.
But there's two Gemini energies, and I can definitely attest to that. Definitely.
And so Ben was like, this just has to be like, people need to like believe, in them as these political powerhouses. And the thing was, y'all had that, like the stories that you were picking yourselves, like the way you were walking through, all I did was help, like, polish the shine of the diamonds that were already there, right? Like, I mean, like, whether y'all were talking about maternal mortality or just like, I mean, it was so many different things in those long daily conversations we would have and the prep for content that I'm sorry the world never got to see. But here we are, and this is great, and I'm so proud of you. And just watching you just like grow and develop, and like, I mean, but you're dope. Like, I've learned a lot from you too. You know, because like with you and Valeria and y'all J school background and experience and stuff, I was like, wow.
Shouts out to Florida A&M University that developed.
You know what I'm saying? HBCUs out here like making excellence happen every single day, right? Like I just, one thing that I have learned over the past, I was just tweeting that this is, I think, the third time I've done like a ladies takeover of Ben's show, and the first one was 6 years ago, approximately.
Wow.
Back in the early days of Progressive Army, David probably remembers this. We had, you know, a whole crew of women that were working, you know, with Progressive Army on the back end, doing different things. And we did a ladies takeover, and then we did another conversation, I think like a Sunday chat that Ben let me pull together, and he ran on his YouTube channel as well. But like through all of that, what I appreciate the most is being able to engage and see like these beautiful minds that exist that aren't necessarily like the big names that folks are finding on MSNBC or CNN or wherever, you know, on the morning, who are just really doing really amazing and impactful work. And I want to just give a shout out to Wendy Muse in particular. You might know her on Twitter as Muse Wendy, who has been doing this really amazing project. I mean, Wendy has a 2-year-old, a little one at home, but is doing this amazing work around providing.
Oh, she has a pandemic baby.
She has I'm trying to think if she was born during the pandemic or right before the pandemic, but yeah, it's been amazing, like watching that journey, but you know, her organizing and how she has shifted and still doing, you know, what she feels is the work. Has been amazing to watch. And so she's been doing this thing where she has been like raising money to gather N95s for people who can't afford to buy them. And while it's smaller scale than what we would have expected from our federal government response, having that mutual aid from folks like Wendy and that work, you know, as we are in year 3, you know, of this pandemic, because even though, you know, everyone says it's all good. I mean, Georgia never shut down, really.
Never.
It still is very real for folks out there, particularly those of us who are immunocompromised or have other, you know, health issues and stuff. So I just want to, you know, give a shout out to, you know, the many ladies of Progressive Army Benjamin Dixon Show past. And as we, you know, kiki here in the present. So yeah.
I love it. There's so many. I love that we can do this. I love that there are so many people that Ben has had in his life in different stages and was able to pull us together and bring us together. So you know what? I will say, Ben, good job. Kudos to you, because I would have never known Anoa or gotten the chance to even interview Georgia and now work alongside her. Even with Valeria, working alongside Valeria. Thank you, Anoa, for helping develop us into, you know, who we are today, and even putting us to the side and being a mama bear, or excuse me, an auntie to us, and having, you know, conversations to help flesh things out and build us, especially in this space where it can get really, really dark. It just shows that there's different levels of women, and just because and when I say levels, we're all in different places, you know, in our lives, in this moment, in this particular space, and it's always good to get, how Haitians say, bon conseil, good advice, and be, you know, somebody who can have a listening ear. So I like that for us in this space. There is a stigma attached to women who look different, who aren't doing the same things, who have different personalities. But I think right here it shows that, I mean, we're all fighting for something. We may not even be on the same page of a lot of things, but we're all fighting for people who look like us. And I think that's great that we can have those conversations here. So thank you for that. With that being said, there's so much going on in Texas, and I've been seeing your tweets. I've been seeing your conversations. If you guys don't, you guys should definitely head over to Twitter to follow The Way with Anoa right here on the screen, as you can see under her name, because honey be tweeting, okay? She tweets. She has these conversations. She can give you a simple sentence that'll put you to bed, okay, when it comes to certain topics. Right now, the topic is Texas and abortions. Listen, Anoa, what's going on in Texas?
I mean, Texas is like in a race to the bottom with several of the states, it seems like, to just deprive any and everybody of all rights, opportunity, and existence, right? Like, I mean, just this intense escalation that we've seen, beginning with, I mean, to be clear, like, on the abortion front, a lot of these restrictions and other instances of trying to erode access to abortion have long existed, right? Like, I mean, going back to once Roe became law itself, you see, immediately states passing laws. We have seen incrementally over the years this happening. What we're currently seeing in this very sharp and severe erosion. So in 2019, we had a wave of these 6-week bans, abortion bans, which are nearly total abortion bans, basically, right? Because at 6 weeks, most people don't even know that they're necessarily pregnant, right? This is 6 weeks after your last menstrual period, not necessarily 6 weeks. The way they count and stuff, like, you wouldn't necessarily know that you're pregnant, right? And so, but a lot of those bans got struck down by the courts and things of that nature. Like here in Georgia, the 6-week ban is actually pending at the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, waiting. They put a hold on that case, awaiting the Supreme Court's decision in Dobbs v. Jackson Women's Health Center. That's the Mississippi case that has kind of set this current frenzy in motion. But so you have states that are rushing to have their laws. I mean, there are tons of states that actually have trigger bans on the books. That means that if the Supreme Court does decide to do away with Roe, then these different abortion bans in various states will immediately go into effect, or have a certain time period where they go into effect. You have other states that have these various varying degrees of restrictions. So we're talking about Texas, but Florida has. Florida, in terms of the South, has been one of the more permissive states in a place to be able to get abortion. It's actually some place that people have been able to travel to when the laws in their own state have been too restrictive or prohibitive. And so when Florida, or you have other states like Oklahoma, you have other nearby states where people were previously going to because their state has limited the right so severely, now also doing the same thing, it causes beyond a regional, tidal wave of restriction to access. And some folks are like, well, there's abortion, there's adoption as an option, or, all this other stuff. And it's like, that's cool. But one, not all children are adopted, right? So we're not necessarily guaranteeing that there is a good life awaiting a child on the other side of birth and adoption. There are plenty of stories. I mean, you have, severe accounts like the movie Antoine Fisher, which is actually similar, to accounts I've heard from family members who languished in the foster care system their entire lives under the guise that, oh, this baby would be adopted. But you also have the idea of forced pregnancy, right? Like, we have, entities that are trying to force women and pregnant persons to maintain pregnancies that they don't want to have. I mean, that is invading bodily autonomy. You have the party of like freedom and privacy rights very much interested in eroding your freedom and intervening with your privacy. So specifically, what has recently happened in Texas is Lizelle Herrera was in Rio, I believe it's in the Rio Grande area, was charged after seeking treatment allegedly for a self-managed abortion, and was ultimately reported to authorities, arrested, booked, charged. Her bail was set at like $500,000, I believe it is, and then ultimately the DA in the region had to drop the charges because
just
there's no
yesterday,
actual
right?
law. Yes, I think it was over the weekend, but yes, there was no actual law. There's no actual law that Lizelle broke. I mean, so this young person has now had to go through what is a personally, a personal health issue, whether we don't know if it's traumatic or whatever the case that they may have been going through initially, but certainly now having their face plastered all over the news, having
public persecution,
news,
for sure.
Like, all of that stuff happening, and having to deal with the criminal legal system for seeking medical treatment. We now have, a chilling effect. And then who knows, I know that groups like, I think it's La Frontera and some other groups locally. I mean, this is definitely a good time to support abortion funds, reproductive justice organizations, their reproductive legal organizations that specifically help people navigating these issues. And I just want to, just highlight that these types of restrictions and the increased criminalization of abortion, whether it's through going to a clinic, whether it's helping someone at a clinic, whether it's, and some folks were saying like, oh, this is SB8. This, I saw a couple of doctors specifically or abortion providers, like folks who understand the Texas law saying like, this isn't necessarily a SB8 case, but the increased criminalization provisions in SB8 definitely heightened the atmosphere and feeling that people needed to act this way in terms of the hospital, whoever at the hospital, nurse, whomever, were the ones that reported Lizelle. I mean, and this is not the only person this happened to. Different people have accounts of, going in for a miscarriage or whatever the case may be. I think we had a woman some years back who was charged like 40 years. I'm blanking on names. I'm usually very good at names, y'all. So forgive me. But we, cancer brains sometimes, but we have these different accounts that have made it to the media and probably so many more that we don't actually know about of people going to seek treatment. Now, we do already know about the disparities in healthcare, particularly with Black and other women of color, and how they're seen as pain seeking or not taken seriously. But this is another side to that same disparity in healthcare, the racism in the medical, field itself. But some of these things that we have seen, I saw a really good point someone made earlier that, we're starting to see these attacks starting to happen on rural, low-income white women as well, right? So it's really, a sharpening of who people find desirable and how they're trying to curtail, restrict, and even eradicate their right to make decisions that exist. And
so would you say...
I'm going to go ahead, yeah. Because I can just go on.
Yeah, I know. Look, me and you can just go on. Okay, it'll be a show for about 3-4 hours. But no. So would you say in this whole thing though, Noah, like for people who can't afford to even go and get abortions, it's not only something that boils down to people being just Black, but I know that it does affect the Black community in a major way. But there are a lot of people who of all colors, all races, all backgrounds who go and get abortions. And I think when we're setting limits or taking away women's rights or for that, getting abortions, I think what happens is, not that I know what's happening for people in certain communities who can't even go and get the help or get the assistance they need. They may go to the Black markets. They may go somewhere where they aren't able to, they don't. This is what happens when people can't get assistance, when we have people who want to rule women's bodies and take away their rights. Because sometimes an abortion is for other reasons. It could be health reasons. It could be reasons that they can't be, financial reasons. And I think that these are the conversations that lawmakers and our leaders who are pushing this abortion bill want to skip over. They never want to say how they would take care of somebody who is willing to, are you going to take care of this person if, health issues arise from this pregnancy? Are you going to help the person raise this child? Is there going to be a certain stipend? Are you going to help them place in a family? I'm talking about outside of a foster care. Are we going to do this from as soon as the child is birthed to the end of the child's life? What are we doing? What are we doing to not just say no abortions and you're going to jail because of this? What restrictions are being put on males in this moment? Like, there are so many things that they're not talking about to attach to this conversation, and it's just abortions are wrong. That's it. But there are so many things that go into people getting abortions other than just not wanting to have a baby and having unprotected sex. There's so much more. Rape. There are things that are associated with this that they don't want to have the conversation about. So it's a lot.
I mean, you're absolutely right. And just thinking about some of those issues you named, I mean, there was a recent report about the state of foster care in different parts of the country, right? Like, there are some places I think everywhere, severely underfunded, like so many other aspects of the social safety net. But when you're talking about like some of the policy proposals, I mean, no, this is all not going to be solved just with economics. But recently there was a group of lawmakers. There's actually a Black Women's Best, I think it's a Black Women's I forget what the name of the caucus is. Y'all, my brain is a little fuzzy this morning.
That's
Apologies,
okay, because you're dropping a lot of information on us.
There is a Black Women's Best report that was released about 2 weeks ago. I hopefully will have an article about this up later on today. But there's a Black Women's Best report that was released. It's actually proposing like an economic agenda that would like center, Black women. When we center people, closest to the pain and the problems, it helps address solutions and issues for all of us. Poorly paraphrasing, but y'all know what I mean. So, it goes through so many different areas, economic, criminal justice, healthcare, things that are just really intrinsic in helping to uplift people's lives. I mean, just even think about recently, right? With the child tax credit expiring. Yes, you can still claim it on your taxes, but that monthly rebate that was being given to parents, was seen as effectively reducing in a real meaningful directly like right away felt way in terms of child poverty, which has automatically bounced back as soon as, it expired. And so just as, when you and Georgia were talking earlier about, justice and what has changed, when you have a system that is not built to provide justice and equity for all, you can't, there is no rest, right? You have to be constant with these prescriptions that are tweaking, changing, and adjusting the natural order of the existing system. And so, allowing things like the child tax credit to languish while at the same time trying to push and force people into parenthood, not providing for, better access to maternal health care. Like there are standards around like Medicaid, providing Medicaid for mothers postnatal, like after they give birth up to a certain, I think it's like 24 months or something like that. You have some states like Georgia just pushed it to 12 months, but you have some states, because that prenatal care, when we're talking about maternal mortality and maternal health, it's not just like during the pregnancy itself, right? That aftercare is also equally important. And part of that aftercare also includes mental health, because postpartum depression is real. Like I myself, had postpartum depression and was just like, well, I'm so proud, I'm young, I could do this or whatever, and did not necessarily get what I needed at the time in terms of supports. And so we need to make sure that there are all the different pieces, the more holistic approach to health, wellness, liberation, and justice. And that brings me to another topic. This is Black Maternal Health Week, originally established 5 years ago by Black Mamas Matter Alliance. It's an alliance of over 30 organizations committed to health, liberation, and justice, including the National Birth Equity Collaborative, reproductive justice groups like Sister Song. I mean, there's so many amazing organizations showing up this week through content and panel discussions, events in various places. I mean, check out Black Mamas Matter Alliance online. I'm actually hosting a panel, moderating a panel on Thursday at 12 for the National Birth Equity Collaborative on, the politics of all of this and how.
Because you're a Black mama.
I'm a Black mama. I'm a Black mama.
You're surrounding this conversation that, okay, not only are you a mother, but we're talking abortion, we're talking all things maternity, we're talking all, these conversations.
All things health.
Yes, all things health for look, all year, every day, all year after that, we're gonna be celebrating Black people in these topics. And I think this conversation is deep, and coming from Black mamas and Black women who have lost children, or Black women who have had abortions, and just Black women in health, I think is a big deal. I almost think that sometimes it's put under the radar in discussions, although we know that there are major disparities when it comes to Black women in health, and us having to save ourselves every time. And I think you being a part of the panel is you being superwoman and dropping some gems for us to save ourselves in these times. So, it being, you said Black Women's Maternal, what is it? Black Maternal Health Month?
Black Maternal Health Week. This is Black Maternal Health Week. It is the fifth week. I believe. Yeah, it's this is the fifth year that this has been an annual thing. This is actually the second year that the White House has recognized it through proclamation. There is actually a Black Maternal Health Caucus in Congress. I believe, Representative Alma Adams and Lauren Underwood have really been leading on the Momnibus bill, a series of pieces of legislation that I believe actually back when she was a senator, Kamala Harris, along with Cory Cory Booker. And then also on the House side, you have, like I said, Rep. Adams, Rep. Underwood, Ayanna Pressley, and other folks who have tried to pull together different pieces of legislation. I mean, now you add to the ranks people like Cori Bush, and when people wonder like about the purpose of some of these congressional elections that are coming up, you have representatives, you have state elected officials like Summerlee and Attica Scott, Summerlee in Pennsylvania, Attica Scott in Kentucky, who are looking to step up and move up to that next level at the congressional level to be a part of the push. Because, I know different people have different issues with folks in Congress, and I'm not going to be all like, oh my God, but they're perfect and they're our friends. But I do see the value of them driving particular conversations, of them pushing different things to a vote and building more of that capacity and coalition and understanding why this is important and why we need to be moving forward on, Black maternal health, because improving Black maternal health improves maternal health. Like the United States as an industrialized nation or whatever, I hate that antiquated colonialist language. I need to find better words than what colonizers taught me. But we do understand, but we do understand, though, that, the United States, despite how great it supposedly is on paper, severely is lacking in terms of healthcare and other issues.
But why is it important to highlight Black maternal health? Specifically,
when you see the disparities, Black women as compared to their white counterparts are 3 times more likely to have complications or die, and when we're talking about pregnancy and maternal health, right? And it's already higher, and it's high in certain states too. Mississippi is one of Mississippi, Georgia. These are some of the states that have, the highest rates of maternal mortality. These are also states that have refused to expand Medicaid. And then nationally, we don't have a universal healthcare system, right? Improving access to healthcare is only part of the problem, but we also need to improve, the quality of care that people are receiving. Folks who follow me or have heard my story know that I was diagnosed with a rare cancer 2 years ago. But for about a year and a half before that, I had complaints of, or maybe about 2 years before that, I had increasing complaints of pain, indigestion. I was told constantly it was just acid reflux, take this over-the-counter medication, whatever. Turns out I have this rare cancer that requires this really expensive treatment for me to function, right? Yeah. And so, but part of having someone take me seriously was having a white girlfriend when I got to the ER to make sure I was not only like properly cared for, but actually admitted. And she literally stayed with me for the first 3 nights. So having that advocate, I'm not going to say it's only because she was white, but I definitely realized when she turned on her little baby Karen voice that it helped move us to the point where I was finally.
Yes. And that's another moment of you having to save yourself in that particular moment. You going to get assistance and you being told, no, I mean, it's not that. Like, and then, you having to bring in, white Karen, your friend, to help.
I love her.
Get you.
She knows to check that Karen voice. She knows to. And she turned it on at the right moment.
And it benefits and it helps. And it's crazy because I know a few years back for me, when I was working at Like It or Not One, I had actually I was having these pains and I was like, gosh, what's going on? Finally went to the hospital, and they were like, oh, it's just a little pressure around your uterus. It's nothing that's, so serious. And I kept going back for like that whole week. And when I told my boss at the time, they were saying, that's not such a big deal. What's happening with you? It was debilitating that I had to sit through one show, like literally feeling a rupture happening down there around my uterus. And so when I finally went to the hospital that evening, they were like, oh my God, they rushed me to the back after sitting in that hospital area for about maybe like 8 hours. And just dying. I was like on my knees, and you guys know I don't do germs, but I was like on my knees laying on my sister's lap in pain. And when I finally went to the back, they were like, oh, yeah, we're going to have to do surgery on you right now. It looks like you had some tumors surrounding your uterus burst, and we're just going to have to do it right now, like right now. And I'm like, I've been going to the doctors for a week, and they've been saying, oh, it's nothing, it's whatever, it's nothing, it might be this, it might be that, telling me I'm having all kinds of diseases or I'm sick or whatever. And finally, when it got to that point, I was like, y'all, I had to push pause on getting the surgery. Why? I didn't have insurance. Have insurance. So I had to go. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I was going to say, Rebecca, I'm sorry to interrupt. Good morning, both of y'all. Rebecca, my niece went through the same thing recently, like maybe last year. She's 21 and complaining about abdomen issues so much. And finally, it got to the point to where she went to the hospital, was in so much pain. She's been passing out because she's in so much pain. Mm-hmm. Finally got to the hospital one day. The pain had gotten so bad, she passed out. They took her back there, and they discovered that she had things rupture in her fallopian tubes around the uterus and everything else. Yep. And had they not brought her to the hospital then, she would have passed away.
Yeah, and they kept sending me back home, and the pain. So I understand, and this is something that is pretty common. But when Black girls and Black women are going to these hospitals and showing that they don't have the funds to pay, they kind of write you off, and it becomes like, okay, she may or may not have the funds. I may or may not want to assist her, and that's pretty much what happened with me. And finally, I know I was talking to a few people, and I remember going in one time, didn't even know. I had to go and find a specialist and just go get insurance from the state. It didn't help me get exactly what I needed. But I had somebody who was like, okay, just go to the specialized hospital. When I went there, they almost treated me as a favor for a friend. We'll work on her as a favor for a friend. And I was going to doctor's appointments not knowing what they were going to do to me. Before the doctor's appointment, I would ask, and they would just say, yeah, just come in. And there was one time I had a biopsy done on me, and I had to go back to work. It was the worst pain ever. And I called Ben to tell him I was not going to be able to come back to work. And I just bust out crying because I didn't know that was what was going to go on with me. After the surgery, when I finally got the surgery, it was like a whole moment in that moment. I got the surgery. A white woman, when I opened my eyes, was the first thing that I saw. And then I had 3 Black nurses just coming out of nowhere. And the white woman was like, where y'all coming from? And they were just like, we're just going to take her to her room. And they're like, there is no room for her. They're like, well, we found one. When they brought me into the room, they were like, get up right now. You need to start walking. You need to start, I know that we got to get you into the bathroom. We got to get you to start walking, because what they're going to do is they're going to try to keep you here. They're going to start charging you more. They're going to start dragging you up a little bit more. And you just had surgery, but you're going to be good. I know I've gone through this myself. We got to get you home. We got to get those muscles worked out. You cannot be in bed all day. They saved me. They saved me from more bills, from me just sitting there. And they were like, you have to exercise that area. You got to rub it down. They gave me what I needed. I went home and everything was fine. And then I got a Black doctor who was telling me, after the fact, when I went to the doctor, they were saying they were still seeing cells and things like that, cancerous cells. And I got a Black doctor, and she was saying, well, let's go this way so that we can heal it. And I was able to, after 2 years of that, being able to get insurance and finding a doctor, a Black woman who can assist me to heal that. After 5 years, it's like the circle that we go through. So Black women are put on the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to getting health care, whether or not you have finances. I remember the story of Serena Williams constantly telling a doctor after her giving birth to her child, I'm getting blood clots. I got blood clots. And they're like, we know better than you.
Serena got way more money than both of us.
Exactly. So it's literally just us being Black women, and they just think they're either strong enough or they ain't got the money. We ain't even gonna deal with them.
Well, when you also think about the trajectory of modern gynecology, right, and obstetrics, and how inherently racist its underpinnings are, and the exploitation of Black bodies to be able to create this area, it's not necessarily surprising. I also have a Black gynecologist. This is why I'm leaving y'all early today, because she be booked and busy, and I need to see her. But I also appreciate, the fact that, and I'm not saying that non-Black gynecologists can't be good people either.
Right.
But at the same time, like the value and how powerful it has been. I have another sister friend who is around my age who's saying the same thing. Like she just found a Black gynecologist and absolutely loves having this Black woman. Like my gynecologist and I are around the same age. So she also understands, you know, from just being a peer, some of the issues and changes that are happening, right? I mean, we don't even talk as a society about what starts happening to women in general as we get older. And I think, you know, these conversations, you know, bringing it back to Maternal Health Week and some of the stuff that is going on for Black Maternal Health Week, you know, these conversations about having holistic, you know, approaches to dealing with our healthcare, you know, that's why reproductive justice is such an amazing framework, because it looks at, you know, the broader aspects of bodily autonomy and for people's decisions about whether to have families or how they have families and when they have families or what they will do after they are done having their families, right? I had my kids, you know, young. I was 20 and 22 when I had my children. So by the time I'm in my early 30s and talking to a gynecologist and she's asking me about whether or not I want to have more kids, I was like, no, I'm good. I mean, my kids, like by then my daughter was like 10, 12. I was like, I cannot see myself doing this again. They're grown.
Girl,
he was like, oh.
Girl, I'm 30. I'm 31. I can't even see myself. Well, I want a kid, but girl, with the world right now, I'm just going to have to wait until the funds come in, a good man come in. But baby, I can't. I got to make sure kids are able to have health care and all that good stuff. I mean, it's so much. It's a big deal. It's a big deal.
It's so
we
much
got
to consider.
Nomiki, I want to shift gears pretty dramatically and come to your neck of the woods in the shooting of 11 people in a New York City subway. There's a lot of information that's going around. We have clips, we have sound bites. But first, I know this is relatively in your area. What's going on and how are you doing?
I'm okay. I mean, I feel like the last 24 hours in New York has been a whirlwind. You had a taxi cab hit my building's like garage last night, and it started flooding. The lieutenant governor had to step down. I have helicopters circling outside right now. We have no idea what's going on. No, I mean, New York's on edge for sure. It's been a very crazy last 24 hours in New York. This event, but you know, and I know they all seem unrelated, but I do think that this event is, you know, knowing what we know about this individual who did these heinous act and the hundreds of videos he posted on YouTube complaining about the crime in the city, complaining about how Mayor Adams has responded, saying that an increased police force isn't going to do anything. It was definitely, you know, unhinged. You know, his mindset was unhinged and he was not well. But you know, it does call into question these larger questions that are part of the national narrative now, which is, you know, is an increased police presence really going to make a difference in terms of the crime? And, you know, when you look at the crime that has existed and it has spiked in the city, it's by no means where we were in the 90s or 2000s even, but it's unusual crime, right? I had a guy in my neighborhood with a machete the other day. You know, you have unhoused people pretty much everywhere because we have a housing crisis in the city. We have a mental health crisis in the city. People are being pushed on the subways, but they're looping it all together as if it's all the same type of crime, and it's not. And we know this. You know, we've learned these lessons in New York City. And so, you know, we talk about increasing police presence and, of course, funding. Well, you know, all that funding and the video cameras didn't even work on the subway platform, which is part of the NYPD. So, you know, there's a lot of lessons here about how are we, you know, Mayor Adams is a former police officer. He talks about smart policing. Well, let's get smart. You got the budget. How are you using it? How are you using it? And if an event like yesterday took place and there wasn't camera footage because it was faulty, well, who's checking on that? I mean, this is a city that has more cameras you could possibly imagine. We are under surveillance at every single moment. And this man is still on the loose. And the only reason they were, from what I understand at least, that they were able to find him was because he dropped a credit card. And then they connected it to a U-Haul that was parked somewhere else. So
that's right.
I'm just curious, where's all this money going? Where is all this money going?
Brother Rutherford, some of these things scream out at me, particularly with the broken cameras, yet we have a multi-billion-dollar police state across this country. In the city of Jacksonville, pastors are getting ready to gather to meet with the local sheriff there because of the lack of investigation. And in some cases, it's because they didn't have video camera footage of a particular area. I know this is kind of like a tangent here, but isn't it mighty convenient that cameras aren't working in certain neighborhoods at certain times?
My brother, all I can
every single place. Take it.
My brother, all I can say to that is, you raise a very salient point. Things just don't seem to work in our neighborhoods. It's just unimaginable. The New York Police Department has one of the biggest budgets in the world for policing. As Sister Nomiki said, you've got Eric Adams, who is a former police officer. Okay, you've got to manage appropriately, and you've got to set some expectations. And one of those expectations is the equipment ought to work. This is not a hard thing, but let's unpack the situation. And we have a mental health crisis going on in this country, and it is manifesting itself in New York. We have a homelessness crisis going on in this country, and that is manifesting itself in New York. And we also have a violence situation. But the way in which you deal with those things are not all the same. See, policing, is one aspect, but good mental health care and responding to people in time of need, is perhaps a better way of approaching these things than just trying to say, oh, okay, give it to the police, let them handle it. We need to be more strategic in our approach to problems. You break problems down. Not every problem, is hammer and nail. If all you got is a hammer, then every problem you see is a nail. It's not that way. We've got to be more solutions focused and not just talk about increased policing. And, one of my big concerns has always been the militarization of the police and using all of this equipment that was used on foreign soil to now come back and try and, quote unquote, maintain control. I think we just have to take another look and reimagine what we are talking about as it relates to policing, especially in the 21st century, because that policing and the links to oppression go way back. And what we have to do is change some mindsets and change the paradigm around, what we are looking for when we talk about serve and protect.
Mm-hmm. That's it. Nomiki, but he mentioned, Brother Rutherford mentioned the militarization. Here's a sad thing. None of the cameras, none of the tanks, none of the Humvees, none of the flashbangs, none of the robot dogs from Black Mirror, none of those things stop this from happening. Yet I guarantee you, Mayor Eric Adams is somewhere right now crafting a speech to declare this is why they need even more money. Yeah. Tell me about that, Jig. Come on.
I mean, it's so funny. I feel like I'm a broken record when it comes to all things neoliberal. I like to see where that money's going. I don't know where, all these accounting firms, all these consultants. Well, I'd like to see. Let's do an audit of the NYPD. It should be public.
That's right.
I mean, this is our money that we're putting into the NYPD, not to mention many other services in this country. I would like to know where that money is going. I mean, it's so interesting that the defund the police movement has suddenly become a massive fund the police more movement when they've received more money than ever. Really curious how that happened. But aside from that, I love this conversation because, New York has gone through a tremendous transformation that is a result of multiple things, good and bad. I mean, the neighborhoods being completely gentrified has turned Manhattan into like a glass tower, Dubai. There's a lot of reasons why crime has gone down. Part of it is just, in Manhattan alone, it's just like nobody living there. I'm joking, but there's plenty of people living in Manhattan. But there are actual apartment complexes that, are pretty much empty. And there've been incredible articles about this. But aside from that, we learned a lot of lessons about failed policing in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s, and what caused the surge in crime. And it was very complicated. And it's not the same as today. The majority of people, we've been under a pandemic where people have been locked up at home. We have mental health issues, as was mentioned. We're putting no money into mental health. People's, whether or not they have an access to a gun, domestic violence is up. That's not the same. It's not the same as, the way that they're trying to portray random shootings. Some of the shootings on the streets that are existing as a result, yes, of more drug trafficking. But drug trafficking is also up because mental health issues are so there's a cause and effect to all these. And we learned this. We learned this in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s in New York. But somehow we've never had a public conversation about how we address each of these issues individually. And it can't just be more police, because, if there's this illusion of safety, we have more police than ever before. If they're so good at what they're doing, what's going on right now? I just don't understand in 2022 how we can be having this conversation in New York City when my guess is if you polled New Yorkers, truthfully, Mayor Adams can say what he wants, but he did not win with a mandate. He won in a low turnout election with a split vote and ranked choice voting. This is not somebody who won with a massive mandate. I want to know go ahead.
No, finish that thought. You want to know.
I think if you polled New Yorkers, if you polled everyday New Yorkers in the city, not Long Island, not these cops that are being brought in from outside, actual New Yorkers, about what needs to be done to solve this surge in violence. And what it is about the violence is it's unpredictable violence. It's not like, it's the random, subway shoves, et cetera. I'm going to guess that they would say that maybe we fund mental health, maybe we find more housing, maybe we deal with these other issues. Giuliani just sent the homeless to Puerto Rico. Seriously, that's what he did. That's how he solved it. We can't go that way. We can't go back that way.
You guys got to forgive me. I am sending out a tweet. No, Miki, this is inspired by you. Hashtag audit the police. Hashtag audit the police, because if you have a problem with us defunding the police and you have a problem with us abolishing the police, my preferred, then let's audit the police. Because if your cameras aren't working, then why are we giving you billions of dollars? You can't even get functioning cameras. I have a functioning camera on my patio in real time. What is the problem? Hashtag audit the police. We do want to pause and always consider Black history. You can go to blackheritagedays.com to get a copy of the calendar. Dr. Mack is working on several calendars, including a Black women's calendar, 366 days of Black women history, and now Black sports histories. There is so much. I will never forget a trip I took. I talk about it all the time, but I took a trip to Costa Rica, and there was an individual there who insisted that there was no such thing as Black culture. It was a Black person who insisted that there was no such thing as African-American culture, to be specific. Well, Dr. Mack has proven that with 6 different calendars, and there's still so much more history that we won't ever be able to capture simply because of all the things African Americans have gone through in this country. But I digress. Let me go now to New York City with the update. The suspect is now in custody. Frank James, the man who allegedly committed the shooting, has now been apprehended. Now, there are a lot of twists and turns in this story, including reports that Frank James reported himself. That is a report I saw on CNN this morning. So it is a lot that's happening. However, the New York mayor is taking full credit for this, of course, not withstanding the fact that the individual who actually called in the final report was not even an NYPD officer. I want us to take a listen to Zach Tahan. He's a 21-year-old man from Syria as he recounts how he called the police in an effort to catch the Brooklyn subway shooting suspect in East Village. Let's take a listen in.
I was working in the store, okay? I was working in the store. I do security cameras.
What store were you working at?
Over there, and I see him, he walk in the sidewalk. I watch him the camera from the screen, and I thought, oh my God, this is the guy. He was half back and his back. He put it in the floor like this, and I see the people walking next to him. I thought, guys, be careful. Keep far from him. Maybe he's gonna do something. Like keep space. People think I am crazy. Like maybe think people I am in drug, but I'm not. I'm fasting. Like I was working in the store, and I see him there, this guy, and I told, you know what, guys, be careful, guys, people just eating, everybody have his headphone, everybody watching music, nobody care about anybody, but we have to care about this thing. Thank you, police, thank you for everybody, thank you, guys. I appreciate that.
Hey Zach, how long did all of that you just described take?
Like it's not 5 minutes, 10 minutes, that's all. And when I see him, Hanan, I was gonna do something for the people. I say, you know what? We need to catch this guy.
And you were totally sure it was him?
What?
When you saw it, you like knew immediately it was definitely him?
Like I was see him. I want to make sure that this guy for real. I run like this, like a gun. I go around like this. I see him. Oh, I looked at him. Yo, this is the guy. We need to catch him. We want to leave him like this. We need to catch him. And that's all. And I was working and I catched him. God, thank God. And when I see the bag and he was walking on the street, I told the people, I see the car police come from street. Told the police, yo, this is the guy. And we catch him. Thank God.
Absolutely. I'm glad we had a chance to listen to that entire clip because that is not what's going to be played on a lot of the mainstream networks. What you're going to get on the mainstream networks is most certainly Mayor Eric Adams. Mayor Eric Adams, a former police officer himself, taking this as a moment to, let's play the clip.
My fellow New Yorkers, we got him. We got him. I cannot thank the men and women of the New York City Police Department enough, as well as our federal agents, our state police, our first responders, from the 9/11 operators to the various men and women from our medical professions. We got him. Said to New Yorkers, we're going to protect the people of this city and apprehend those who believe they can bring terror to everyday New Yorkers. And I want to thank everyday New Yorkers who called in tips, who responded, who helped those passengers who were injured. 33 shots, but less than 30 hours later, we're able to say, we got him. Thank you, Commissioner, for your leadership and job well done.
Listen, for anyone who may not be up to date, Mayor Eric Adams is not a good person. He has decided to cast himself as the villain in this narrative. And so when I see him there trying to evoke a Obama-esque moment, we got him. Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. No, you didn't get him. Zach from the East Village got him. The NYPD did not get this guy. Therefore, and this is really important. This is not just to drag Eric Adams and his silly behind or NYPD and their fatuousness with if somebody could give me the image. I would never let people forget the image of these police officers, NYPD bragging about stopping a diaper heist. I lie not to you. They bragged, the NYPD with their $10 billion a year budget, right? Whatever the accurate number is, they bragged about a diaper heist. Now, what usually occurs in these moments is that somebody is killed and all of a sudden there is a complete and total silence. There it is. After receiving numerous larceny complaints in the Bronx, officers from the NYPD 44th Precinct recently arrested 12 individuals following an enforcement initiative targeting shoplifters. And on the screen, they have diapers, baby wipes, formula, some what is that? Some bounce, household items. What normally happens, you could put Eric Adams back on the screen. What normally happens in these instances is that someone is killed and therefore no one is allowed to say anything about the increase in spending on the police state. Because that's what Eric Adams was really hoping for here. We got him. No, you didn't get him. And out of the 10, I think I read somewhere that there's over 10,000 cameras in that vicinity. And those were the only 3 cameras that did not work. The 3 cameras that involve this individual. Red flag, even if it's not a conspiracy, it's most certainly telling us that we are wasting our money on the police state. If you don't want to abolish the police, like me, if you don't want to defund the police, which is the pretty moderate position, we are going to demand that you audit the police, because I think you need to give a raise to Zach. Send a check to Zach for catching this guy, because the NYPD did not. What the NYPD was busy doing was put it back on the screen. While the NYPD was making a bust of people who were stealing diapers, who were stealing baby formula, people so desperate that they are stealing household needs. While the NYPD was doing that, Zach was the one actually apprehending and turning in the suspect. Now, there's a whole nother layer to the story. We've talked about it very briefly. The fact that the shooter, the suspect himself, called in himself. We'll get more details on that as we go. But I want to be sure that we're clear about this. Under no circumstances should this be allowed to be used as a football by that goofball in New York City by the name of Mayor Eric Adams to get more money for the NYPD when they can't even keep functioning cameras when we need them the most. And while Zach from East Village is the one saving the day, NYPD is out stopping people from stealing baby formula. And if they happen to get a drug heist, it's like, what, a pound of weed. Congratulations, you stopped someone from getting the munchies.
That's right, Jesse. Jesse! Making bacon bubble. I like that.
By the way you stared, the way you wrote up on me, yeah, yeah. Man, I felt your energy. Wasn't used to being loved and treated differently, yeah. But something went wrong, the signals got crossed, and now we're on completely different pages. Let's go where we were, when no one gets hurt.
Good morning again, everyone. Y'all make sure y'all stay tuned.
Keep it right there, don't you stress the flow.
We are getting ready to start here momentarily. Woman's only episode.
Baby, keep your focus.
It's going
don't
to
you
be
make
a
me change
good one.
my
Y'all
mind.
don't want to miss this.
If you love me, baby, don't you switch up the vibe.
I am just here as a
baby,
condition.
Don't you,
know what I mean?
baby,
Because
don't you,
obviously.
baby, don't you switch up the vibe. Baby, don't you, baby, don't you, baby, don't you switch up the vibe. Boy, you take me on a trip. Always up and down and back and forth in merry-go-round. I just wanna get it right. But when you go left, I'm stuck here feeling left behind. Cause something went wrong, the signals got crossed, and now we're going different directions. Let's go where we were, when no one gets hurt. Baby, keep it right there, don't you stress the flow. You're trying tryna pick the pace up, we should take it slow. Baby, keep your focus, don't you make me change my mind. If you love me, baby, don't you switch up the vibe. Baby, don't you, baby, don't you, baby, don't you switch up the vibe. Baby, don't you, baby, don't you, baby, don't you switch up the vibe. If you love me just like you say you do, don't kill the good vibes. If you kill them, you're gonna kill us too. Baby, keep it right there, don't you stress the flow. You're trying to pick the pace up, we should take it slow. Baby, keep your focus, don't you make me change my mind. If you love me, baby, don't you switch up the vibe. Baby, don't you, baby, don't you, baby, don't you switch up the vibe. Baby, don't you, baby, don't you, baby, don't you switch up the vibe.
All right, y'all. Special edition of the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show. You're probably going to be seeing a lot more often. Joining us this morning, Georgia Fort, Rebecca Azor, Anoa Changa, and Olay O'Learn. And she's going to give me for messing up her name. But first, we are on the clock with Georgia Fort. Good morning, y'all.
Good morning. Good morning. I am independent journalist Georgia Fort, and today we have an extremely special show planned for you today. Today is the ladies' takeover. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning. Good morning.
I am so excited to be on screen with both of you. You're both powerful women. I know that we have worked on the Benjamin Dixon Show and Like It or Not in different capacities, but to set the guys aside and let us do our thing, I'm really excited about it. I've been waiting for this, and just to be honest, I hope we can do more of it.
I really do. I really do. And good morning, beautiful ladies. Yes, this is the first time that I even been on the clock. So this is like this is a whole moment right here. This is a whole moment. But absolutely, I know we've never met each other, Georgia. But you know, in our first meeting of having you on the show, you've been a definite light. I love your work. I love what you're doing. Anoa, you've been a mentor to me for some years now. Thanks to Benjamin. So shouts out to Ben for putting us together. But you know, it's a women's takeover, so we're gonna make it all things ladies today.
Absolutely. And I encourage women who are watching to leave in the comments just different discussions you like us to have. I mean, there's so many issues that are personal to us, from mothering to dating to self-care, that it'd be really fun to engage women in our audience in a unique way that only we can. So we're not saying that the fellas can't tune in or can't participate. That's not what this is. But we deserve some space from time to time just for us, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Absolutely. You know, and this morning I would like to, because what I do a lot of times in my work, I try to center the stories of mothers, because as a woman and as a mother myself, their stories are so near and dear to me. And so over the weekend, I had the opportunity to spend some time with Katie Wright, who is a mother here in our community. And yesterday just so happened to be the 1-year anniversary that her son, Dante Wright, was fatally shot by Kim Potter in Brooklyn Center. A lot of you may remember that moment. It happened 3 weeks into the Derek Chauvin trial. It was unbelievable. Nobody could believe that the world was watching Minnesota following the murder of George Floyd. The world was watching Minnesota because the Derek Chauvin trial was happening, and everybody was wondering, was he going to be found guilty, what the verdict was going to be. And in the middle of that trial, another Black man was killed by police. I want you guys to take a listen to Katie Wright as she reflected what this last year has been like for her. Take a listen.
This last year has been an emotional roller coaster. It's been living a nightmare. It feels like I'm in the twilight zone. And it's been a whole year and I'm still in a twilight zone. The hardest time was that first month that Dante was gone. I was in disbelief and I just wanted to lay in bed and close my eyes and then wake up and it would be all over, right? Dante was just the light of our family. He would come in and joke so much, and he loved his son, and he was a happy kid, and he loved sports, and he had big dreams and aspirations that were taken at an age of 20 that he had so much life ahead of him. And he was my whole heart. He was my son. He's a part of us that we'll never get back, but I feel him around us still, and I know that spiritually he's here, and he's going to continue to help me fight for, help me so that way there's no more Dantes, right? There's going to be no more names, and I'll continue to do so.
What have you learned in the last year?
Oh, wow. I've learned so much. I've learned that no matter how hateful the world gets, you have to keep fighting because that's what they want you to do. They want to be so cruel and knock you down so many times that you just give up so that way they win. And if we allow that and continue to let people treat other people like that and don't say something when we see it, it's never going to change. I've also allowed that white people need to stand up before it happens to them. Don't say you see things happening. Don't agree that it's wrong. Then what are you doing about it? Because I am that white person. I didn't do anything about it, right? I was in my comfort and my privilege that I wasn't out here standing with everybody, with Jamar Clark, with, Cordell Handy. I wasn't there. I watched it. I knew about it, and I was in agreement, and I 100% stood with them. But white America needs to stop, and they need to stand up, and they need to say something before it does happen to them, before they are in a position where you don't have a choice. Now you're thrown into it, and you have to do something about it. Don't wait for that moment. Do it now to protect your neighbor, your child's friend. You may not have any BIPOC in your family, right? But BIPOC community is touching every white person in America, some way, somehow. If it's not through their family, their friends, people they work with, like, stand up and say something now to protect them. Don't wait for it to happen to you.
I thought it was very powerful how she pointed out being a white mother and this happening to her because she has biracial children. But what I can't help but notice is the fact that, we're here in the epicenter of this global movement where everybody promised change, right? We saw what happened to Chauvin. We saw what happened to Potter. There was a little accountability there, right? But she was only sentenced to 24 months. And then Amir Locke happens, and those officers aren't even charged. And so the question that is on the minds of most Minnesotans who have been advocating for change, and I would even argue most Americans who have been arguing for change, is what has really changed when just a couple of miles away from where George Floyd was killed, a black boy is killed who legally owns a gun, and nothing happens about it. No one's charged. What has really changed?
It's funny, because I'll say this, I don't think anything has really changed. I mean, we can go all the way back to just Breonna Taylor, and that's recent. In recent years, we can take it way back some years before us that these things are constantly happening. I think little things have changed where we're able to go out into the street and protest, but even in that, we're still being abused and targeted while we're protesting. And then the accountability is something that we're looking at as justice, just for them to at least be taken taken to trial or something that goes to court. That to us is becoming like the epitome of what justice looks like, you know. And then when justice comes, we're getting 2 years for a police officer killing someone. In this case, Kim Potter for Dante Wright. In the interview that you did with Wright's mother, what took me aback was her actually saying, as a white woman who has biracial kids, I was sitting in my own privilege until this particular, death came to my door, something that I've seen for hashtags of Black children, but I didn't think it was going to happen to me because I was sitting in my own privilege. So her actually taking accountability and speaking up, I think was a really big deal in that interview that you did with her.
Absolutely.
I just want to also say, just Georgia, I know you got to get ready and go, but like amazing work. Like really getting in there and centering these conversations and stories in this way. Been watching your footage. We haven't gotten to do anything yet together, but been watching your footage and coverage of just even the protests around Amir Locke, and just some of the stuff that you've been doing like quite some time. And we're still in a pandemic, y'all. Like Georgia be out there in these streets and we are still in a pandemic. And I just want to say salute, sis. Like, I'm just so honored to share presence and space with you because this is a part of that storytelling, that work that we need done, that's really shining a light in a way that we don't ordinarily get from mainstream media. So I just want to say thank you this morning.
Mm-hmm. Not only is she out there doing that, she was protesting. She got hit with rubber bullets. She's a mom. She's a wife. So she's out there doing the work. And like you said, I'm absolutely honored to be here working alongside her. So that's big. You're right.
I appreciate you both, and I have admired both of you. I've listened and watched both of you. You're both powerful. You have challenged me to think about perspectives and issues differently. And Rebecca, your energy, girl, I be listening to you. I'm like, man, if I don't have 3 cups of coffee, there's no way I can have the interview. And so you just always bring joy and laughter into my household because even when I'm not on, I am listening. And so it means so much to be honored and recognized by you. And I hope as I do prepare to hop off, I hope if women don't get anything else from this episode, the one thing I want them to take away is that we can celebrate each other, that we can honor one another, that we can work together alongside each other because there's been, some unfortunate stereotypes, I think, in our community as Black women that things have to be competitive or, there's not enough seats at the table for us all to win. And I think that's untrue. And I think that we're proving that today as we celebrate each other and honor one another. I would even encourage women to hit up your sis and tell her what you appreciate about her because there's nothing more rewarding, there's nothing more fulfilling than when you have another Black woman, look at you and tell you that she's proud of you, that she admires the work that you're doing, that she sees you. It's just, I don't know. It's a good feeling.
I want to mention that our sister Georgia Fort has been nominated for a Webby Award in journalism. She is a fierce, independent journalist, and we're excited to have Georgia Fort as a part of the morning show. I want you, every single listener, every supporter, to go follow the instructions on your screen right now and go support Georgia Fort. That sister has brought just a level of she's just the icing on the cake. So definitely want to support her in everything that she does. And shout out to her as she's doing the project that she is doing this week. I do want to shift gears and talk about a Black Virginia teacher who is suing a white student after continuous racist taunts. Now, this is a story that we've been keeping our eye on. I have a video that will give you the entire background, but this is coming out of Newport News, Virginia. A teacher is suing a former student after constant and incessant racist teasing. Joelle Mungo is a 21-year-old veteran history teacher at a high school and says the constant taunts were unlike anything he's ever experienced as an educator. Let's take a listen to the clip.
Tonight, a local history teacher is suing one of his former students after multiple acts of racism against him. Only on 10, Michelle Wolf sits down with the Newport News educator as he describes what happened to him.
In his 21 years as a history teacher at Menchville High School,
Joel Mungo has never seen anything like it.
Someone left a banana at my door. The banana was perfectly placed in the doorway of my door in the hallway.
Mungo shared images with us that were taken 2 weeks ago, but the first instance happened in October.
It happened once a month, and the last occurrence happened last week.
A banana always in the same spot in Mungo's classroom doorway.
So it was clearly a deliberate act.
After the 6th time, Mungo told 10 on Your Side enough was enough. Mungo reported the problem to Menchville administration, who pulled up surveillance video and found the student responsible, a 10th grader in one of Mungo's classes.
Gave the student a chance to come clean. I asked him, like, hey, did you do this? He said, no. He played dumb. No, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I said, okay, go down to the assistant principal. I'm the only black teacher he has. He has 6 other teachers. No other teachers were involved.
Mungo says the student's parents were contacted. He was placed on a 2-day suspension and removed from Mungo's class.
Initially, supposed to be when the parents were contacted, the parents seemed to be truly embarrassed. And when the student was suspended and his parents were informed, then the parents were irate. Well, I was sickened. I was highly upset. So upset, I took the next day off. I didn't go to work that Friday.
Now Mungo is in the process of pursuing legal action over the racist act.
Because I'm just fed up with the racism around, especially in our academic institutions, coming from the HBCUs and other colleges, the bomb threats, the nooses, the bananas, and now streaming into public education. It's time to take a stand and just let people know that it will not be tolerated. I know I'm not tolerating. You have to speak up. You can't allow it to go on, because then it will just continue to go on.
Michelle Wolf, 10 on Your Side.
Wow. I wanted to play that clip because, well, he said it best, right? The initial reaction from the parents, they were shocked and appalled. The student's parents, the student who was guilty of putting the banana. We'll get to racist part of it first, but it's the lack of accountability, because then when school tried to enforce accountability, that's when the parents lost their mind. And that's what this is all about, isn't it? It's about these white people. Yes. Hello, white America, being free, do whatever you want to do without any accountability. There's just a part of this country that, without a shadow of a doubt, believes that it is their constitutional right to be racist to you, and you have no recourse whatsoever. And if experience the slightest bit of accountability, well, then they think that their rights have been infringed, because this is what we're seeing in this clip. This is what those parents did. They were appalled when it was all a slap on the wrist. But once suspension came, that's when they lost their cool. Of course, because when have white conservative, I guarantee if you look at this family, this one lockstep, make America great again. There's no question about it. Prove me wrong. They're Donald Trump supporters. Prove me wrong. I guarantee you that this is exactly what they're being fed through their television every night. Fox News, Tucker Carlson. And this young man who's not watching the news, he's online in the chat rooms with the Proud Boys, the other incels, who have a very difficult time getting any type of interaction with the female persuasion of our species. So therefore, they take out all of their latent frustration with bananas. This is what we're dealing with. And while that is funny, we do turn the corner, and they turn into Kyle Rittenhouses. These kids who probably have everything that they want or need, probably has every game system that he wants, every luxury that he needs, but somehow he feels that he has been slighted enough that he has to make a political statement, a racist political statement, right here every single day. And then when someone tries to hold him accountable, his parents lose their minds.
But Ben, like you said, his parents claim they appalled, but I think they're just more appalled that he got caught doing it, because he had to learn, like you said, he had to learn this from somewhere. He ain't, you know what I mean? He ain't just get it from out of thin air.
Absolutely. And you said, we were saying Dwayne behind the scenes, you were like, you didn't expect this from that particular city, Menchville. You know the area. From that school. Yeah, from that school. I was kind of joking. I was thinking more like the Tab area, one of those schools that's more predominantly white. But, it can happen anywhere. Yeah, it is happening. That's the crazy thing, man. Racism is a learned thing. And This generation is doing a really good job teaching their children how to be racist. This is why they fight so hard against critical race theory, right? They simply do not, and I don't know what it is. What, y'all really want to say the N-word that bad? Like Joe Rogan was talking about being willing to throw away his deal with Spotify. And somebody on Twitter joked about like he really is committed to the N-word so much that he'll lose $100 million deal, right? It's so offensive to a portion of this country to have to be able to consider someone else. Oh, the absurd, oh, the pain. Oh, it's so difficult because I have to look in your bio and figure out what pronouns that you want. You can take my friend down. It's so like, why is it so hard for some people in this country to simply consider other people just for a split second and say, oh, because I have to honestly think about your pronouns now, I've been oppressed. I have to go through a day, like white people in this country wake up and say, I have to go through an entire day without saying the N-word, I am oppressed. I have to ride on these streets next to people who don't look like me and we pull up to the same red light together, I'm oppressed. Because what else is wrong for you in this country? You're not going to talk about, I'm talking specifically to white conservatives. What else is wrong? What's wrong in this country? This empire is perfect for you. It was built for you. Now, unless we're going to talk about the poverty in this country, the fact that there are so many Republican counties that they are drenched in abject poverty, that they make the third world look like, well, name Owsley, Kentucky, right? The highest percentage of consumption of SNAP benefits, plus the highest level of Republicanism in the country. It's like 99% Republican, 95% own public assistance. No problem. We should have public assistance. But unless we're talking about that, then you have nothing to complain about in this country. Nothing. Literally, conservatives get everything they want in this country. But the one thing that they should be arguing for, which is like a livable wage, they fight against it. You know, it's really something, and I hate to be like this, but I grew up in the South and I know these areas really well, but it's really something when you drive through parts of Mississippi and Alabama and you pull up on I've grown up poor. I know what it is to grow up on food stamps. So this is not like an elitist position, but I'm going to say, holy damn, y'all got to do something about the stuff that's going on around those corners of the Delta. While you guys are like those parts of Appalachia, of Kentucky, it is so drenched in poverty, yet you linger and hang on to the racism.
How do you console an English teacher? There. All right, y'all, stay tuned, man. Like the night is going down, starting up next. Y'all stay tuned. Rachel Bannon, good morning. Hey, we started a band and called it Books, so no one can judge our covers. Tracy Jones, good morning. Hollywood, Chronos, Indian Brown, good morning to you. I ran into my friend Mark who stole my dictionary. I said, Mark, my words. Rebecca, you ain't know that. When my wife caught me standing on the bathroom scales, sucking in my stomach, she laughed. Ha! That's not going to help. I said, sure it does. It's the only way I can see the numbers. 9 a.m. to 10:30. Yeah, like it or not, is on your channel. Yeah, politics. Ryan, good morning to you. Y'all know what time it is. Yeah, interviews and all the news. We get to choose what gets the views. Like it or not, with Queen Azor. Get started now, so stick around. Like it or not, it's going down. Like it or not, y'all stick around. Oh, Rebecca Azor, it's come. Just Hearts in my city, good morning to you. You know she got a good story for you. 183 Country Boy, good morning. Benjamin, that's my dog. This is his show. He's a politics bro. There could be 100 people in the room. DJ. And 99 won't slap me. DJ exclusive. But one will. Y'all know who I am. I stay dropping them jams. Like it or not, it's going down. Chris Rock couldn't figure out why Will Smith was on stage walking his way. Y'all stick around. Then it hit him. Oh, like it or not, it starts. What do you call a typo in the tombstone? Like it a grave mistake. Yes, let's go down.
Like it or not, with Benjamin Dixon, starts now.
Hey, 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 good morning, good morning. Look, I gotta say all parts. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Like It or Not, where we're free to tell the truth and not care who doesn't like it. Today it is Ladies Takeover. It's just a ladies' night. And we have the two great attorneys on the screen. I don't know, Olay, if you've ever met Anoa. I don't know if you ever met Olay, but Anoa is someone who has background in law as well as you. So, I mean, look, nice to put y'all together. Hey, what's up? Hello. I love it so much.
Morning.
How you guys doing this morning? I know I had to drag you out of bed, Olay.
No.
And Anoa.
So
I know you got things to do. Yeah. So, but thanks for being here with me on this morning. Georgia couldn't stay for the whole show, but she did start out the show. So it was really good. Hopefully one day we can all be on there. I absolutely love that throughout this whole, show today, like I was telling Noah, it's funny because there are so many women in this space who do different things, right, in their career, who represent different things. We all look different. I mean, we may be black, but we all look different, all kinds of things. However, I love the different tones, a voice, the different attitudes and personality, but it still gives me what I need, And I think in this space it's very important to understand that Black women aren't a monolith. They're not just one way. And even though it means that we're not just one way, doesn't mean that we can't all come together for the purpose of rooting for everybody good and Black. Because, everybody that's kinfolk ain't kinfolk.
Next story. Alabama passes an anti-trans law targeting youth. The governor signed a bill making medical care a felony and teaching in school. Oh, okay. This is a heavy story. And we've been tracking these pieces of legislations across the country. This is not an isolated event. And I want to start, before I even give the details here, I want to start by saying this. You're only going to go as far as your last bigotry. Whatever the last bigotry you're holding on to, that's going to stop you from going wherever you're trying to go. So if your holdout is, I'm cool with everything in the world except for, trans people, well, then there might be a limitation to your trajectory. I digress. On April 7th, lawmakers in the Alabama House passed a bill to make gender-affirming health care for transgender youth a felony. Reuters reports that the bill was passed 66-28 by Alabama's House of Representatives. Medical providers found in violation of the new law, which still needs to be approved by the Republican or signed by Republican Governor Kay Ivey, could face 10 years in prison. 10 years in prison. Reuters reports that Democrats, that's a difficult thing to say fast. Reuters reports. Say that 5 times fast. Reuters reports that Democrats in the Alabama House argue that the bill contradicts Republicans' principles. Republicans Representatives Wes Allen compared the new legislation to laws that prevented minors from getting tattoos or buying cigarettes. This is still an open debate around the country, but I could tell you most assuredly that the laws that are being passed by these Republicans across this country are not designed to do anything but to be cruel and to create another boogeyman. And it's unfortunate, James, because if a child, I don't have to tell you this. If a person has an identity other than what's popular, it's already difficult for these kids in schools. So now you have these governors who all of a sudden they're big bad men. You're really tough, Ron DeSantis and Kay Ivey. I know you're a woman over there in Alabama. Yo, country ass. I know y'all are tough because you get to pick on the smallest percentage of society, of the smallest group of people, and make them out to be the biggest, baddest boogeyman that the world has ever seen. Forget about Vladimir Putin. You need to be afraid of a trans youth.
I want to just to correct one thing. Give
me the correction. What did I mess up?
No, you didn't mess up. We had old B-roll on screen. So the footage was saying that the Alabama governor, it was unclear if she was going to sign the laws. She signed the bills already.
She did sign the law. That's what I thought.
Alabama.
That's what I thought. Okay, because as I was reading it, and I said, okay, I thought she signed it. So it is now law. Folks, I'm sorry. Listen, Republican Party are masters of doing this is their technique. You could literally apply this to everything that they do. They take the extreme example of anything and then make you have to be afraid of that. For example, if they're looking at the Black community, what do you think they're going to put on Fox News? Do you think they're going to put on Fox News the peaceful protests, or you think they're going to find the 1-2 second incident that something bad happened and they're going to put that on repeat over and over and over again? That's because they do it. They take the worst and the most egregious example they can find. And if they can't find an example, they create it. And in this case, we see that they're taking the fear of a trans woman going into a women's bathroom, and they're using that as the ground from which they are launching all of this hate-filled bigotry that absolutely does not stop with the trans community. You are an absolute fool if you think you can align with this bigotry against the trans community and come out without having some bigotry slap you in the face. Because it's not stopping there, because we see now they're saying every single gay person who's a teacher is a group. This is what they're saying. They're saying gay teachers are now groomers. Republicans are going to get somebody killed, either directly. Ask Dr. Tiller. I'm sorry, you can't ask Dr. Tiller. I believe that's his last name, Bill O'Reilly, directly from Fox News, directly connected to this man being killed by an extremist abortion activist because of what Bill O'Reilly was saying on Fox News got a person killed. And here they are going to do the same thing, either directly through the bigotry or indirectly, flag on the play, this law. This is a very direct attack on trans youth. And if somebody ends up killing themselves because of it, Kay Ivey, a pox on your entire house.
There's so much I want to say, but in just to, so you won't get the channel flag, I just won't say anything because I'm really pissed off about it for the simple fact that what what they're doing is because you don't know or understand what we go through, and you don't
James,
want to
don't hold back.
understand what we go through. It's just like you don't need. I mean, it makes no sense at all, because now you're being a detriment to the youth. And now we're gonna have youth that are afraid to talk about how they feel, their emotions, because around them you have a lot of emotions that you're going through, and that you want to talk to somebody about, but you don't know how to talk to anybody about. So now you're not only adding that into the fray, but also now you're gonna have higher suicide rates among queer youth, because this is what happens. All of a part of everything that you're doing, this is what goes on. So I'm just like, fuck all of y'all.
Really?
Honestly. True.
Really? With a sick dick is how we finish the sentence in Pompano. Because that's all they deserve. That's all they deserve at this juncture. We'll move on to another story, but I just want to put an emphasis here. Listen, if you are like, if you're like liberation, except gay people, you're not ready for liberation. If you're like freedom for everybody except for trans people, you're not ready for liberation. If you're like liberation for everything except for Black folks, you're not even lying. You're not even in the conversation for liberation, just to be sure. But we're dealing with the Republican Party's ability to poke and prod the bigotry inside of us. Let me tell you something. I'm conservative. I'm conservative in how I raise my family. I grew up in the Black church. You know I'm conservative. I got sermons out there somewhere. Somebody will find them eventually, right? You know what I mean? I was as anti-LGBTQ as you can imagine, right? But I had to look at myself in the mirror and say, seriously, like what about their lives bothers me? What does it have to do with me? What does it have to? And people have an inability, particularly Christians. The reason I've started including the church, a lot of people had a really big problem when I started, using my church vernacular as an intentional way of growing this community. But one of the reasons I wanted to bring the church community to the table as well is because, they need to hear this too. You cannot sit here and talk to me about morality and point towards trans people and say, look at how bad they are, when I know what's going on in your churches, because I've been at all of them just about. I mean, I know whose deacon is doing who. I know about the family member on the other side of the aisle that I know all. I know about all, because it's happening everywhere. You cannot preach about morality and stand like you have some high horse to stand on when what's going on inside of the churches. Let me get off the Black church for a minute. Let me get off the Black church. How dare any of these religious institutions attack anybody about morality? Have you seen the sin of the Catholic Church? Have you seen the bodies of youth who have been molested and abused by men who claim they love Jesus? So if we're really going to talk about morality, I think that there are some men who protest too much. Thou dost protest too much. And I think you guys need to fall back lest we have a global alliance of liberated people who will fight back against this Christo-fascism that is really about your inadequacies as a man because, well, you have small dick energy. Moving on.
Yeah, and then go back to the Black church real quick, because
I don't let them all
Black pastors that get up here in the pulpit and talk about homosexuality in the church, but you got whole ass videos out there. You know what?
Woo-hoo.
I'm gonna stop.
Hey, love.
And it ain't talking about with no, you know what?
So I will leave you with this. Something, if I were to give a sermon, and I don't do that anymore, but I would ask you like something just dropped on my mind. Please, James, what is the gender of a spirit?
Ooh,
just like,
damn, Ben.
What's the gender? What is this?
Gender
what is the
neutral,
sexuality? What is the sexuality of the spirit? So literally the thing that's inside of every single one of us is gender neutral and asexual. I'm just like, well, not necessarily asexual. I might have got that one wrong, but somebody who knows all the Q's and P's and X's. I don't know all of it, but that
James,
thing on the inside of us.
James, you're not going to get the channel canceled. Ben's going to get the channel canceled.
Right, David.
Okay. Just so y'all know, I have some spiritual literacy. The Bible says that God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. So if you could tell me what the gender of a spirit is, if you could tell me the sexuality of the spirit, then I can hear your argument against the LGBTQ community. Until such time, this is a good place for us to take a break.
Deadly, man. Lord, I know you just want me to be a painted picture of beauty, but my God, today does it have to be on the internet every morning for the whole week?
What do you have? Do you have clouds in your hands? Is that clouds you're holding?
Yes, as I was rebooting, Dwayne may have saw it fall, but next thing I know, I'm just sitting here, and that's what I said. The sky was falling. I'm just like, oh.
I heard you say literally fall. Ooh, okay, man. Good morning. Welcome to Like a Night. It is Thursday, April 14, 2021. 2022. Rebecca Azor is out today. We are here with DJ Exclusive, who has the literal sky falling off his ceiling there. What's going on, man?
Why are you saying it like that? DJ Exclusive.
DJ Exclusive. Because I'm country, man. Listen. I have dispensed with all notion of me not being a Southern boy. I'm from the South. I've grown up in Mississippi. I lived in Boston long enough for me to try to pretend as though I didn't have a Southern accent. It didn't really go well. So now I'm just going all in, man. DJ Exclusive.
DJ Exclusive.
On the ones and twos, DJ Exclusive. Now listen,
I'm going to make sure I spin some records on this Benjamin Dixon morning show. With my cloud falling from the ceiling.
Now that's one half of the Rebecca. That's DJ Rebecca. That's one half of the show. Now we got Rebecca. You got to leave that lane for Rebecca when she get back. But shout out to her and what she's doing. And when was that women's episode? Was that I'm lost. That wasn't yesterday. That was Tuesday. Was the women's only episode. Shout out to all the sisters who said that they're going to do an episode and then we ain't going to see them no more this week.
Bro, what? I'm like, damn, can I get that kind of no? Okay, it's cool. That's fine. It's okay. It's okay.
So I imagine, because I don't believe in self-imposed deadlines or timelines, I imagine we're going to get out of here early today since we don't have the rest of the sisterhood with this. That's okay.
On the women's takeover subject, I just want to make it a note for all past and future guests. If we're asking you to wake up at the crack of dawn, at the ass crack of dawn, it is not my choosing that this was a morning show.
David, you're really brave for a white man. I promise you, I don't really know many white people who really get that kind of leverage with me.
I can't tell you how many you're lucky I'm up at this time. I'm not going to have to wake up a half hour earlier, David. No, I'm like, it's not
it is true. It is true for everyone who comes on the show. Listen, everybody literally complains, from Professor Harvey K, who refuses. That's another white man I give a little bit of leverage. He refuses to come on before 8:45. James, you okay with it?
Oh God, they be talking about now see, I don't know why they up so goddamn early. They know they don't be this early on time for anything else. They want to start the show this damn early. They don't want to be early on for anything else.
When do black people start early? Wait a minute. That's how we know Ben didn't grow up in the hood.
Oh my God.
We know Benjamin Dixon did not grow up. I grew up hood adjacent though. I had to walk through the hood.
I came about an hour late, and now I'm about to leave about an hour early.
I know Mickey is like, I cannot believe Ben Dixon has me up at 6:00 on the West Coast to do some Solidarity Wednesdays. When black folks know they be late to everything else, but no, at the Benjamin Dixon Morning Show, we're early, and David is right. That is most certainly my fault. So shout out to everybody who complains about how early the show is. And this next story is not copacetic. This one is really a tough story. And there's a clip that we're going to watch from CNN's Omar Jimenez reporting on the police footage that has been released of Patrick Loyola. I'm pretty sure I'm messing up the last name, but you guys have to forgive me. We're not going to play the entire video. We have images of it, but this is a black man who has been killed, who was kicked and shot. I want us to play the breakdown of the description of the video, because I don't want us to play the video because there's just too much Black death around us, but we do need to get this update. So here is CNN's Omar Jimenez reporting on the police footage that has just been released of the shooting of Patrick Loyola.
You were in the room as police wrapped up the press conference just a short while ago. What are they saying after the release of the footage?
Well, Jake, frankly, they're calling this a difficult day. And now leading up to what you just saw play out on your screens there, police said they pulled over this vehicle for mismatched plates, mismatched registration, though they wouldn't say why they were scanning them in the first place. But as soon as Patrick Loyola is pulled over, he's seen outside of the car. There's a discussion. Loyola starts running. The officer tackles him to the ground, and they're really fighting for a matter of minutes at that point. The officer tried to deploy his taser twice over the course of this, and Loyola is seen trying to grab that taser as they're up, they're down, and then they go down for that final time, those moments that you just saw play out. The final words we hear from the officer are drop the taser, and then a single gunshot. The officer gets up, Loyola doesn't. Now, the central questions here become what prompted this officer to pull out his weapon, and this officer is seen on top of Loyola while he's face down. So I asked the police chief, what is the officer trained to try and do in that situation? Take a listen to what he said.
Typically, the answer is that you're trying to place them in custody. That's it. You're trying to secure that individual. The follow-up question, I'm sure, will be, was the use of force in policy, and I'm not going to comment on that. But the test is going to be whether, in the view of a reasonable police officer, whether that deadly force was needed to prevent death or great bodily harm to that officer. That's the test which will be used for the policy.
And again, the question is what prompted that officer to pull out the gun, and if it was the taser, whether that taser prompted a threat or rose to that threshold of being able to commit great bodily harm or death, Jake.
Right. Whew. Oh, so this one, I mean, if you watch the video, man, it's tough to see. He shoots him in the back of the head.
Yeah.
The thing about it is that this video is not going viral. On Twitter, Omar Jimenez, CNN correspondent, you just saw that he shared it. I think it has like 17,000 views. Not that this is a competition about clicks, but I think it's really a question of, are we so used to police killing a Black life that we don't even share the videos anymore?
You know, I won't go as far as saying, one, I think we're very desensitized to it now. But part of me wants to believe that it's not being shared because they don't want people to keep seeing us being killed like we are. And the other part of me is, I think now, because I didn't even hear about this, and this incident took place April 4th. So here it is, 10 days later, we're just now finding out any information about this, where it's getting nationwide coverage, and that to me is like damn near 2 weeks for anything to come out about this. You shot this man in the head while you're on top of him, the back of the head, and that makes no sense at all. It to me is just like your intent was to kill. Simple as that.
If you're on top of somebody and I get it, you know, you're out of breath. You didn't work out as hard as you used to work out. The Krispy Kremes are catching up with you, officer. And so it's really difficult for you to keep up with Black men in the hood, right? Because, you know, you're just so used to us running away and all this stuff. He just was overwhelmed with physical exertion And he got tired of being physically exerted, wrong way of using it, but I don't care. And he decided, because I'm tired in this fight, I'm in a fight because I'm tired and I'm not winning, pop, in the back of the head. I think somebody doesn't need to be a police officer ever again. I think there are a lot of police officers who never need to be police officers ever again, because if your recourse after you can't keep up or you can't win the fight is to pull out a gun and shoot somebody, then why are you a cop? We should hire the other guy, the guy you killed, the guy you can't handle, because you pulled him over because his plates was bad. Now let's get to that part. Like, the plates didn't matter. You pulled him over and now he's dead, right? So yeah, okay, pull him over, plates bad, mismatch, that happens. Should have had your tag clean. Don't ride dirty, right? That doesn't end with your death. Sandra Bland,
exactly.
For making like signaling the wrong way, she goes to jail for the weekend, ends up with her death. Why do we have police officers again? Because are they stopping? Let's just think logically here. When a police officer stops the crime from happening, they don't. They come after the crime has been committed. And if you're a black person, they come and make the situation worse because you probably end up getting killed. Ask Ma'Khia Bryant, who called the police and got killed by the police who came and killed her. She called her own executioners trying to get support, ends up dead. And here's the other aspect of this, James. I think the other reason a lot of people may not be sharing this one is because the guy had nerve to fight back against the police officers. He was fighting back. And a lot of times if you have any type of fight back, if you're not the perfect angel, they're not going to share it, right? You know, it was hard enough getting Michael Brown coverage back in the day of Ferguson, right? Because of the narrative, they made him seem like this big brooding monster. It was hard enough then. But now in this video, you see the guy, the black man, actually fighting back with the police officer. And I think there's a good part of our civilization that says, oh, well, he should have been fighting back.
And you know what? Honestly, man, I think that would probably lead it to get shared more, for the simple fact that it's a black man fighting back against an officer. If you really think about it. So, and honestly, like you said, it wasn't until Rebecca and Georgia shared the story that I even heard anything about it. And then, of course, once they shared it, they said. Yes, and then that's when it started popping up on all this national news and everything. As soon as they shared it, that's when it popped up on ABC News Tonight, like their main news at 7 o'clock in the evening. That's when it popped up there, and now it's popping up everywhere. Oh, okay. Because y'all know that it's wrong as hell.
That's right. That's right. That's right. And stuff gets buried. Go ahead, David.
And here's the two things that I'll bring up. First of all, I just want everyone to know that the picture of the cop that we had in the on-screen visual, that's not the officer that's now been put on not unpaid, but paid leave. That's not the officer in this incident. That's the chief of the Grand Rapids Police that we need to be making sure doesn't rest until there is actual action on this. But beyond that, so Patrick was grabbing the taser. That doesn't jeopardize the cop's life. It doesn't jeopardize, and if the cop wanted to use his gun or felt he needed to use his gun, why do it where he did? Like, why not do it in the side, in the arm?
Hit him in the back of the head with the gun. If you can't fight, if you got all
you shouldn't be in the job if you can't
stuff on your body and you can't throw some bows. Like if you really, I mean, seriously, at the end of the day, you can't restrain a black man because you're too weak, then you could have pistol whipped him, But there's a good chance he's going to get
I got one better for y'all.
What you got?
I got one better for y'all. Instead of you shooting this man in the back of the head, why not get your punk ass off of him, let his ass run away, and you put out an APB or call for additional backup to go catch him because you couldn't do what you're supposed to do.
And that's the thing, they already had backup.
That sounds like that might be some good protocol right there. But instead, I shoot a man in the head, in the back of the head.
The back.
You didn't even let him see it coming. He didn't even let the man see it coming. That man's just resting on the ground. Next thing you know, he wake up in heaven. Didn't even get to see it coming. That's some cowardly stuff. This is what we pay billions of dollars for every year. And they can't even keep cameras working in the NYPD.
And I just want to clarify, I'm not suggesting that the cops should have shot him at all. I'm just saying that it's
options.
There's no other word besides execution that describes this.
Yeah. No, when you shoot somebody in the back of the head and they're face down in the ground, that's execution. Krispy Kreme is launching probably the dumbest campaign I think I've ever heard of in my life. Krispy Kreme is matching gas prices for inflation. Did the company glaze over the idea? Who wrote that tagline? I hate you. Krispy Kreme's newest promotion announced that they will be matching the cost of a dozen donuts to the average cost of gas in the United States, naming it donut deflation. The promotion began yesterday and will last through May 4th. In a statement with USA Today, Chief Marketing Officer Dave Skinner told the outlet, quote, "While Americans deal with the rising PPG, price per gallon of gasoline, we're lowering the PPOG, the price of original glaze." Somebody shoot me. Inflation and high gasoline prices are serious in forcing families to take tough trade-offs. A dozen original glazed donuts for the price of a gallon of gas will help our fans make midweek a little sweeter for their friends and family. The current national average of gasoline is $4.11 this week and will be the starting price compared to the usual price that can be reached as high as $15 for a dozen glazed donuts. Here's why this is stupid, James. They're going to be making an announcement about this every single week. I just don't know if you want to peg your price to something lower and then like later on, everyone is going to be like, the cost of gas is not the thing people want to have their emotions played with right now. However, I get it. You're mad about gas. Go get you some Krispy Kreme. I guess that's the promotion. I don't know. Help me out with this.
Two words for it. Hated it.
I just noticed James' head, and James, you
James. That cuff. Oh, I get it. It's so What was the name of the characters? What were their names? Oh, somebody put it in the chat room. Living Color. What are the names?
Men on Film.
No, Men on Film. 2 snaps up. Oh, man. Anyway, later, everybody.
All right, so I love y'all. Enjoyed the show today. I hope y'all had a good time as well as much as we did, man. Again, if you have not already, patreon.com/likeitnornot, patreon.com/the BPD show. Go ahead, join so you can get access to the Patreon party. And also act.tv/join, act.tv/join. Y'all go be great today, man. Happy Friday, Junior. And your affirmation for today: I am committed to being the best person I can be. I am committed to being the best person I can be. Love y'all, mean it. Go be great. See y'all later. Deuces.
Time goes by and yet I wonder, why do we put each other through hell? Why can't we just get over ourselves? I know we should. You cast your spell and now we're under. I know the laughter and the pain. Will I ever love again?